kick the field goal. It'll be Jason Gingell out of the hold of Mesco. Snap, good hold, and the kick is blocked. Appalachian State has stunned the college football world. One of the greatest upsets in sports history.
Live from Chatterbox Sports Studios, it's Off the Bench with Thom Brennaman.
Good morning, and a good Thursday morning to you. Getting ready for the weekend. Coming around starting tomorrow. Welcome to Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. I'm Thom Brennaman. We come your way 10 a.m. to noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You can find us, many of you already have, on YouTube/Chatterbox Sports. We ask you please subscribe to the show. You can also find us streaming on Twitter and Facebook, where the show streams on the Chatterbox Sports page. Flip the notification switch on. If you prefer to join us in podcast form, we're there for you. Just search Off the Bench with Thom Brennaman, and you are dialed in. The Bengals, back at it today downtown, ready for the Cleveland Browns. Kickoff is at Paycor this Sunday at 1 o'clock. We've talked a lot about it. The Bengals have lost 5 in a row to their division rivals. They haven't beaten them since 2019. Bengals are a 6-point favorite. We have James Rapien coming up shortly. Zach Taylor yesterday in his press conference, did you see this? Made it very clear that when Joe Mixon is healthy and out of concussion protocol, he will be the starting running back for your Cincinnati Bengals, not Samaje Perine. Perine ran for better than 100 yards on Sunday, added 50 receiving yards in that win over Kansas City. Tonight on Thursday Night Football, the defending Super Bowl champion LA Rams, losers of 6 in a row, host Las Vegas. Every game now is a must-win for the Raiders. Let me hear it, Casey.
The Raiders.
Very nice. You're getting better at that. A lot better. But basically, they're 2 games out of the final wild card spot. They need help. They have to leapfrog 3 other teams to get there. And did you see the news on Von Miller? One of the best pass rushers in the NFL. They went in for exploratory surgery after his injury a couple of weeks ago. They found out he has a torn ACL. Von Miller, sadly, is out for the year. Crosstown shootout, Saturday at Fifth Third Arena. UC and Xavier tip off at 3 o'clock. If you missed it, we were joined yesterday by Bearcats head man Wes Miller. He's got an incredible reception on our Thom Brennaman TV Twitter account. Former Muskie Steve Wolf will join us tomorrow to talk about this matchup, and we're working on getting our buddy Terry Nelson as well. So thanks to Paul and Brandon for that. Baseball, the cash keeps on flowing. Start with San Diego. It's just mind-boggling what the Padres are doing. Xander Bogaerts gets an 11-year, $280 million contract from the Padres. Bogaerts will eventually move from shortstop to second base when Fernando Tatis Jr. returns from his suspension. So the Red Sox lose Bogaerts. They sign Matsutaka Yoshida, an outfielder from the Japanese league. 5 years, $90 million. Boston also added closer Kenley Jansen on a 2-year deal for $32 million. The Cardinals lose their longtime future Hall of Famer Yadier Molina. He retired, of course, at the end of last year. So they go out and they get one of the best in the business to replace him in Wilson Contreras. 5 years, $90 million. And this is the one, and I know all you analytics people are going to start throwing stuff at the screen. Wins don't matter. Wins don't matter by a starting pitcher. Jose Quintana. Good pitcher. Been a good pitcher for a long time. Gets a 2-year deal from the Mets for $26 million. Last year, this cat started 32 games. for the Pirates and then was traded to the Cardinals. He won 6 games last year. 2 years, $26 million. God bless him. God bless him. Casey, Paul, the Dunce, Brandon Seho, how's everybody today?
We're doing good.
Yeah, we're doing great. Great to be with you today, Tom.
Great to be with you guys. As always, we are loaded up in the chat. Don is around talking about the Reds offseason in a nutshell compared to the Cubbies, Cody Bellinger and Jameson Taillon. Cardinals get Wilson Contreras.
Paul.
By the way, 2 things that I missed yesterday. And I really feel badly about December 7th, 1941. That was the day the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. And the hundreds of U.S. military men and women that lost their lives, and of course that catapulted the United States into the greatest war ever, taking down Hitler and Nazi Germany, the Japanese, the Italians. I am very sorry that I did not mention that yesterday. A day which will live in infamy. Also yesterday was Johnny Bench's birthday. I was texting with him last night. Once I realized it was his birthday, I sent the old boy a happy birthday wish. He's had 4 days, he said, worth of celebrating down in Florida. He texted me this morning. He says enough is enough. And also today, sadly, a Cincinnati institution. Jerry Thomas was on morning radio on WKRC, among other places, forever. Great guy, did so much in this community. His son, Brian Thomas, is on 55 KRC now every morning. But Jerry Thomas died after a long bout with Alzheimer's, 83 years young. God rest your soul, Jerry Thomas. Do we have James Rapine yet?
No, we do not.
Not yet. Okay. Let's see what else. You guys want to add any of that? Anything you want to comment on? Any of the above or no?
Happy birthday to Johnny. How's he doing?
He's doing great. I mean, he is doing great. You know, he's raising his 2 boys. We had him on the program here, the big interview a number of weeks ago. So he's really, really busy. He's raising those 2 boys down in Florida. And the guy really seems happy. We talked about it with him and the whole thing with him and Pete Rose and, during their playing careers. And, of course, Pete being a Cincinnati guy and Johnny was from Oklahoma. And I think there was tremendous jealousy there, both by Bench and Rose, and then some of the things that happened later when Pete got entangled due to his own doing, of course, on the gambling situation. I think Johnny seems very content and very happy. So happy birthday, belated happy birthday to Johnny Bench. Paul, were you getting ready to add something there? You look like you were getting ready to speak. Or were you just
Casey and I were.
You just talking to Casey?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're currently undergoing
We got a new setup here.
We have a new setup here. A nice new audio board. We're just trying to get used to it. That's all.
We have any problems? Anything going on?
No.
No problems.
Okay.
No.
Just adjustments on the fly.
We might
Paul
sound better.
Painter. You know Paul Painter?
Don't know Paul Painter.
He's new to the program. He just joined in on the chat. Able to watch live for a change. He obviously downloads our show. Paul, thank you. Excalibur Iron Force. There's a nickname.
Is that the best name on this chat? It might be.
Yeah, it really is. Don, salute. We salute you, my friend, as always. And our retired veteran who's on this program each and every day. Don points out the Padres shortstops, plural, Fernando Tatis Jr. and now Xander Bogaerts, will make more money than the entire Reds team in 2023.
Just the 2 shortstops?
Just the 2 shortstops. One, of course, who cannot play because he will continue his suspension going back to last year in Fernando Tatis Jr. We're not going to get all political here today. It's a big story in the world. It's a big story in sports. Brittany Griner, WNBA star, was arrested in Russia. She has been swapped out for a man that has the nickname the Merchant of Death. So that's a one-on-one prisoner swap. I'm not getting into all that. Everybody can have their own opinion about it. Apparently, Micah Parsons, the star defender of the Dallas Cowboys, has come out and said, you got to be kidding. We left a Marine behind, and that's a story in and of itself, who was arrested years ago on espionage charges, spy charges. I don't know the whole story. I'm not going to get into the story. It's just reporting the story is all we're doing here, okay? You make your own judgment or decision how you feel about it, and I don't need to sit here and tell you what I think about it. All right. So we got the Tracer coming up today. We have James Rapine anytime now. We hope.
Yeah.
Yep.
He said he sent me an email.
10:15.
And 10:15.
Right.
And he said that there might be some construction working.
Yeah, he had told he's got something going on in his house.
Yeah.
He's got something going on.
So he might be dealing with that.
We power through.
Yeah.
We'll power through.
CJ says Tom should have checked out Seven Hills Marymount Saturday. I've been to most of the Marymount basketball games this year. I missed that one on Saturday. Had other plans. But I will be there Friday night when they give Indian Hill a butt kicking. That's tomorrow night. Everett says Tracy Jones, the man of the people. Let's go. We'll have Trace here at 11:30.
Tom, are you going to be at the shootout on Saturday?
No, I don't have a ticket. You got any tickets?
I don't think so. I will be there.
I figure if I wear this shirt, this blue shirt, that I would be able to sit in whatever section that you would be able to put me in. Right?
That's true.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to having Steve Wolf tomorrow because what a great guy. Just an awesome guy. I've known his wife forever. And just a great dude. She had to battle through cancer a number of years ago. And he does a great job broadcasting games on television. His family, of course, I would make the argument. Now, if you're talking about professional level and all that kind of thing, the Larkin family would be the family. But if you're just talking, the huge umbrella of Cincinnati sports families, no one matches the Wolf family. Nobody. No. Going way back. I see Marty all the time. Phenomenal tennis player. And so anyway, we're looking forward to having Steve. All right. I don't know if James has his tool belt on or has some construction stuff going on. I can't believe he doesn't have everything covered up back there behind him. His Dr. Seuss book, his Will Smith book, his UC helmet, et cetera, et cetera. James, what do you got going on? You doing some big league renovation over there or what?
Yeah, a little bathroom renovation, a little HGTV at the Rapine household going on right now. But but by the way, what's wrong with Will Smith? Nothing's wrong with Will Smith. Don't do that.
I didn't say there was anything. I just said you didn't cover it up. I didn't badmouth the guy.
No.
Look, we're all in favor in walking up on international televisions and smacking some guy across the face. That's all cool.
Yeah. Well, outside of that moment.
Yes,
I've
really enjoyed
has
it.
been
and look, I know that people inside of football stay as far away from that whole movie that he was in about concussions and about the CTE thing and all that kind of thing. But that was a fantastic movie. He's done a lot of other stuff that's great. Casey, can you turn up my headset a little bit? You had asked that earlier. Please, thank you. All right, James, I want to ask you first of all, Zach Taylor yesterday comes out and, makes no bones about it. Joe Mixon, if he's healthy, clears concussion protocol. He is my guy. Were you surprised by that?
Nope, not one bit. And it's what I've heard throughout this time. And I think it's been good fodder outside of the building, but there really is no question inside the building about who the Bengals starting running back is. Now, does that mean that Samaje Perine won't get more touches or that they're even more comfortable than they were prior to Joe Mixon's concussion with Perine in big moments? No, I think he certainly earned more carries, more snaps, potentially more touches because he can do everything. And so if you have a running back that can do everything at a relatively high level across the board, use him and keep Joe Mixon fresh. And much like they did at Oklahoma, they can keep each other fresh and get the most out of both backs. So in a tandem running back league, I get what they're paying Joe Mixon. That can't matter when it comes to keeping him fresh and doing what's best for the team. And so I do think that getting Perine more snaps compared to what it was and where he was pre Joe Mixon getting injured is that needs to change. But as far as the starting job, yeah, it's Joe Mixon's job for sure.
But James, look, you watch this team in practice every day. I love Joe Mixon. I think he has been just an outstanding player here since the day he set foot in Cincinnati. And he's been a good citizen off the field, too. And I think there's a lot to be said for that after everything that was going on around him in Oklahoma when he came out of the draft. But, James, when you're sitting there up in the press box watching the game, and you were there last Sunday, this team looks different with Perine to me. Am I wrong on that? They just look to me like there's an edge, there's an attitude, there's a toughness. And I know Mixon's a tough guy, and I know he cares, and he's a passionate player, but they just look different. Am I wrong about that?
Well, they may look different because this offense has evolved. They may look different partially because Perine's in there, and he is a better pass blocker than Joe Mixon. There's no denying that. So we'll see. It's going to be an interesting test on Sunday because they're certainly going to play Mixon. And can this offense continue to hum with Joe Mixon as it has with Samaje Perine? Zach Taylor won't hesitate to remind you that Mixon had 5 touchdowns the last time we saw him play a full game. And I get that, and he is capable of that. But his floor has to be higher. I think that's the thing with Samaje Perine is his bad is still solid. He might not have the ceiling that Mixon has or the upside of breaking one for 52 yards downfield or 30 yards for that matter. But he's going to get you 9, and that's what this offense needs. So I get that. He's been a really good piece that has kept the offense moving downfield. And yet I think Mixon is capable of that as well, and I'm curious to see how he plays, how he looks, given what we've seen from Perine over the past couple of weeks.
Is he fully cleared at this point? Did I miss that? I had not seen where he's fully cleared to play this Sunday. Has that been decided on yet?
It hasn't, but Zach essentially said that yesterday. He had to get through a full contact practice, which practice in full, and he practiced in full yesterday. So I think all signs point to, unless there's something unforeseen, point to him starting on Sunday against the Cleveland Browns.
What about other injuries? Anything to be concerned about? Someone pointed out on Twitter that Joe Burrow sounded like he had a cold. Lord knows everybody and his brother right now has something going on. Is he all right? Everybody else all right?
Did sound like he had a cold. I think he's fine, right? And he had just come inside from the walkthrough, so who knows if that was part of it too. Everyone seems okay outside of Hayden Hurst, and that's the one where I don't think you're going to have him this week. He was in a boot yesterday, and that's to obviously help with that calf injury that he suffered. But I watched him test the calf out on the sidelines before they even announced the injury in the first quarter on Sunday. And you could just tell he was frustrated because it did not get to where he wanted it. And so if their adrenaline's pumping and you're not able to go back out there with something like this, you do wonder how serious it is. But I would be shocked if Hayden Hurst plays on Sunday, and looks like he could miss multiple weeks.
I got to tell you, you look at 3 areas of this team, and I'm just going to set aside. I'm not going to dismiss the defense and the job that Lou Anarumo has done as defensive coordinator and the secondaries coach and the linebackers coach, defensive line coach. But when you look on the offensive side of the football, Hurst is now hurt. Sample's out for the year. Wilcox has really done a good job. Really good job, especially blocking. He's capable of catching a ball. So what I'm getting at here is when you look at the staff under Zach and under Brian Callahan, running backs coach, Perine has stepped in there, and you can make the argument they've been better with him in there. Whether or not you want to agree with that or not, he looked really good last week starting and getting all the carries. The offensive line, and much was made about their struggles early in the year. Tight ends coach and all that's gone on there. This looks like, and maybe everybody's saying duh, but it seems like the staff and not necessarily the guys that get all the pub and their names off the top of your head have been very, very good for this Bengals franchise.
Totally agree. And I'm glad you pointed that out because I'm the first one to rip Taylor during, game management decisions and things like that in crunch time. But I think overall the entire staff, Taylor on down, they've evolved, they've gotten better, they've improved as the season has gone on. And part of that is adjusting, pivoting, being open to new ideas, being open to changing your run game from a wide zone to a power scheme to open things up and suit your offensive line that didn't play together in the preseason. There were a lot of people frustrated with Frank Pollock and his teachings. Well, it's working now, right? And so I agree with you. I think they've done a tremendous job. To go 3-1 without Jamar Chase, I don't think the staff, I don't think this team, either one, was capable of doing that last year. And they were able to do that and make a run despite not having, their best skill player. So that's just one example. You're right, losing Drew Sample. He was a big part of what they do, even though he's not a flashy name, and fans don't, think of Drew Sample as one of the stars on this team. And so losing him, well, now you're asking Hayden Hurst to block more. And that was kind of a knock on him coming into this season. And when they signed him in free agency, he's been a solid blocker. It made a highlight tape against the Titans a couple of weeks ago. I know that went viral on social media. So the depth of this team has been tested, which is something we didn't really say last year. And they've been able to not only keep their head above water, but get better as the season's gone on. And so the assistant coaches, James Casey, the tight ends coach, Frank Pollock, everybody up and down this staff deserves credit because they've done a really good job, and that's why the big reason why the Bengals are 8-4 going into Sunday's game.
Okay, Sunday's game. You talk about it on your podcast. You've written about it. We've talked a lot about it on this show. If you're going to, make the statement that the Bengals are in the Titans' heads, right? They've beaten them, right? And they're in the Chiefs' heads, okay?
Yeah.
3 times beating Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in this calendar year. You certainly have to agree that there's a possibility the Browns very much live inside the Bengals' heads. What are you hearing? Not necessarily on the record because, we've seen and heard a lot of that. What are you hearing sort of off the record inside that Bengals locker room about their approach to this game and finally getting over the hump and Burrow finally beating Cleveland for the first time in his career?
As weird as it sounds, I think they're approaching this just like they would any other divisional game. And by the way, that's a heightened sense of attention to detail and focus just because it is a division game. But this idea, first off, and I get it. I get the heads thing. I haven't written that about the Chiefs, by the way. I don't necessarily think that's true. I think Burrow's outplayed Mahomes, and that's why. I don't think one's in the other's head or anything like that. It might be a bad matchup. And by the way, the Browns might just be a bad matchup for the Bengals. They can run the ball, they can get off to a fast start, and they can pressure Burrow. Maybe that's all this comes down to. But I watched Burrow in his second game carry the Bengals at First Energy Stadium against a much better Browns roster and almost beat the Browns on Thursday night. And then 5 weeks later, he should have led the Bengals past the Browns, but that bad defense for the Bengals could not stop Donovan Peoples-Jones and Baker Mayfield. What a dynamic duo. Last year, Burrow was bad. And earlier this year, obviously, they struggled on Monday Night Football. So I don't think it's as bad. I don't count the Week 18 game last year because no one was playing. I don't think it's as bad as it feels. But I said all that to say, yeah, it's still 5 straight. And now with the Bengals potentially making a push for the 1 seed, you can't lose to the Browns again. You can't lose at home to a team that has a quarterback that last week couldn't hit the side of a barn with the ball, 12 of 22, and it wasn't that pretty. It was much, much uglier for Deshaun Watson. So this Bengals defense should be able to stop the run. We saw it a few weeks ago with Derrick Henry. They were able to do that at Tennessee. Got to do it again this week against the Browns. Got to find a way to get a win because, 0-5 in your last 5 against Cleveland can't happen, especially now when you certainly have the better roster, have the better team, and have the better quarterback.
We had Brian Billick on. We have him on each and every week to talk about, sort of big picture topics around the NFL. And there was a time he was considered one of the great offensive minds in all of football as offensive coordinator with the Minnesota Vikings and went on to win a Super Bowl, of course, as head coach of the Ravens. And I had asked him about Deshaun Watson, and he had gone, 700 days almost since he had played in an NFL game. He did not look good last week at all against Houston. They did not score an offensive touchdown, but they won the game. Are the Bengals expecting a little bit better version, a much better version? Any idea at all? I mean, I know they don't have a crystal ball down there, but what to expect out of Watson in this matchup?
For sure. I think they're expecting 2020 Deshaun Watson. And if he doesn't show up, then you feel better. And that's what they should expect. They should expect to get Watson's best. And I do expect him to bounce back a bit. I mean, that was he was awful. Yeah. I mean, he was skipping passes like you skip rocks on a pond. And that was a real throw to, Kareem Hunt. I know he skipped one and a couple of others. And Zach Taylor pointed this out on Wednesday, how talented this offense is. And they are. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, best running back duo. As great as Mixon and Pirine are, right, as a duo potentially, Chubb and Hunt are just on another level. And so you put those two guys alone around Watson. You have a guy like Amari Cooper on the outside and David Njoku at tight end. They have weapons now, and it does come down to Watson a bit. But I think the key, get off to a good start early and take away the run early. Because if you let that run game get going, the short passing game get going to these running backs, it's just going to open things up for Watson. It's going to give him some confidence. Shut the door on that. Say, you might be great at some point for the Browns, but it won't be in week 14. I think the first quarter of this game and the first even few possessions for both the Bengals offense and defense are so huge in determining the outcome of this one.
All right, last thing, ping pong table gate down there.
Oh, my goodness.
Go ahead. I want to hear all about it. Our fans in the chat want to hear all about it. What's the deal on that?
There is no deal.
Okay.
And I hate this because it's like, Battle of Ohio week. They've lost 5 straight and they've given up the ping pong tables. This has happened a couple of times this year. I know it happened after the bye, I believe, or right before the bye. I think it was before the bye when they really needed to get a win against the Panthers. And I assume the cleaning crew came through and vacuumed everywhere or something, but the tables were put up for like a day. Coaches didn't know about it. They were put up for whatever reason. But I know Jermaine Pratt wanted to play a game yesterday. So I don't think that this is we really have to focus after losing 5 straight to the Browns. I think this is, more of for whatever reason they randomly got put up. And I expect them back today, certainly tomorrow, because tomorrow's a big ping pong day in the Bengals locker room.
Who's the best ping pong player on the team? Do you know?
Oh, yeah, I do. Trent Taylor is
not
probably
a surprise.
The best.
That dude strikes me as a kind of guy that he's probably great at everything.
Yeah, I mean he's really good. Usually he's at the top of their charts or their power rankings or whatever you want to say, depending on who you ask. Mitch Wilcox in the mix. Burrow usually 3rd or 4th. Tyler Boyd has certainly improved and is in that mix. The other one, Chidobe Awuzie, was certainly in the conversation before his injury. And then Jesse Bates is sneaky good. And he doesn't play a lot, at least in front of us. But when we've seen him, he's been really, really good. So those are the top guys that I've seen.
Well, see, I mean, where are you going to get that kind of information, fellas? I mean, where are you going to find out who the best ping pong player is on the Bengals roster except from James Rapine and appearing and kind enough to join us here on Off the Bench?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Hopefully the construction guy's too loud. I was hoping I was trying to mute it.
Never heard them one time. Obviously, they're not doing their job. They're out having a schmag out front. You might want to get on
probably
about that.
Oh,
All
man.
right. James, have fun down there. Thank you so much, as always, for your time. We really appreciate it.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Tom.
Right. James Rapine, kind enough to join us. All the coverage you'd ever want of the Cincinnati Bengals. You can get it with James Rapine and from James Rapine, whether it be in his podcast form, whether it be in written form, whatever it might be. Yeah. Anonymous says, James just throwing the cleaning crew in under the bus. Right?
That's what it sounded like.
He's not wrong.
We have a new member again, another new member. We're getting them by the day. It's very nice to see. I don't know Chris Biersack. You guys know him?
Nope.
Never seen him on the show before. said some of the very best daily sports conversations you'll find. And thank you, Chris, for your kind words after that. It's nice to have you with us. Zachary's in the house. Talked about Don. The Real Spirit Cat 1 is back. Anonymous. Paul Painter, we mentioned earlier. You know who's missing today?
Uh-oh.
You know who's missing today is Sir Boy Wonder.
He's not here.
Oh, sir.
I get worried about the old boy when he's not here.
Where are you, sir?
I don't know where he is. I get worried about him. Really worried about him. The Real Spirit Cat 1 says, for some reason I see a ping pong stink list coming from Casey McAllister.
Ooh. Now that is a stink list. Yeah. I got to get into the Bengals locker room, judge them all, from title towns to borderline good, borderline stink.
Tom, you strike me
Stink.
as a really good ping pong player.
We have one in our basement. I like playing a lot. I don't play enough. But when I do play, not too shabby.
I was going to say, you and I, we've never talked about that, but just from getting to know you, you strike me as somebody that could take somebody and really
Well, I don't know about that, but I do know I like playing. Some of my favorite moments as a husband and a father in my life have been when the four of us, my wife, son, daughter, and I get down there and start playing. Very competitive, all four people. My wife was an All-American runner at Notre Dame. All the athleticism in the family that moved on to our children all came from her. And so, my son's a tough one, though, because, he's a lacrosse goalie. And that hand-eye thing, man, I mean, when they're shooting 90 miles an hour from 15 feet, so, he's a guy that gets under my skin. I used to be able to kill him in basketball. Now can't touch him. Heartbreaking.
It's a huge day in a young man's life when you finally beat your dad in whatever sport you're competing
Yeah, but
in.
now he's beating me in everything.
Golf?
That's not. I mean, come on. I quit golf 20 years ago. Yeah, I mean, it's not even.
I remember
contest.
signing the ball and keeping it the day that I beat my dad the first time. It's a huge moment. I remember writing on it.
That's awesome.
If I'd have kept
first
playing, I'd
win.
be
That's
kicking
great.
his tail left and right.
Golf?
Yeah, but I quit playing.
What were you, like
Takes too much time.
like a 2 handicap?
No, hell no. Come on. No, never
Oh,
that good.
like
But
a
I
3?
mean, I could get around. I can still get around, but not any good. I got the yips off the tee,
Oh.
so I had to quit.
What?
The yips.
I mean,
The serious yips. Yeah. Now, if I went back and, wanted to start playing again, and like I said, I can get out with him. I'll hit a 2-iron off the tee instead of a driver because of the yips.
so were you
so,
just slicing everything?
No, I literally would hit a ground ball to shortstop every time.
Oh.
And would right now if we lined it up in this room. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, he's he's stallion in that sport. Okay, fellas, listen, we got a lot of time to talk today before the tracer comes up. College football, pretty quiet. Bowl season starting next week. UC plays next Saturday in its bowl game against Louisville. And we're going to have 3 NFL games next Saturday. They do this thing once you get into mid-December where they move some games to Saturday from Sunday. One of those games is going to be Miami and the Bills. That's one you're going to hang out and watch. But Army Navy. So one game I've always wanted to go to, and I've never had a chance to do it because all those years I was doing an NFL game, 25 years on a Sunday, so I could never go. And Paul Doherty, by the way, at themorningline.substack.com wrote a beautiful piece on this matchup. And, oftentimes I'm guilty of saying, we're all guilty of saying, oh, this is all that's right in football or college football or whatever, college basketball. This truly would be the definition of all that is right in college football. My son was playing in a big national lacrosse tournament a year ago in Maryland, just outside of Annapolis. And so I said to him, look, we have to go down there and visit and look at the Naval Academy. We went down there, and the football team was working out. And I don't know if you obviously, Paul, you've been to Annapolis.
Many times.
Many times. Casey, you ever been there?
No, I've not.
Okay, I mean it's one of the most beautiful, interesting places that I have ever been. I'm not so sure that if somebody put a gun to my head and said you had to move somewhere tomorrow, I would give serious consideration to going Annapolis, Maryland. The town, obviously, it sits on the water. The way it's so unique in that, most times the town sits on the water. There's sort of just a circular, part that goes up to the water. This runs into a V right in the middle of the town. And you've got boats there and a marina there. And then all of a sudden you walk down these brick streets and you cut through a couple of alleys. And then you come to the gates to walk into the Naval Academy. It's surreal. I had pictured going to the Naval Academy or somewhere like that as having these big, huge gates and everything. No. I mean, it's a gate about this high. Now, I wouldn't recommend just jumping over the gate. Probably not a good idea.
No.
But you got to go around and they walk you through the the screening and all that kind of thing, which we did. But anyway, I got over there, and as we were walking through, there were different naval cadets, men and women, and I would stop them and bother them and ask them about their experience and what it's like. And then the football team just happened to get finished playing, practicing, and they came off, and my son and I and two of his teammates and their dads are standing there. And we start talking to some of these kids. Man, these guys, they know when they apply, get accepted, go to play any sport there, but in this case, football. And we're talking about Army-Navy this weekend. It's the same at West Point. No different. And the Air Force Academy out in Colorado. These guys know that when they go there, that they owe the United States of America 4 years after they graduate. And man, they're so excited about the 4 years that are going to happen after their 4 years at the academy.
So a little cool story, too, off of the Naval Academy. I grew up in D.C., or right outside D.C. in Northern Virginia. I've been to more Navy football games than any other college football team. I love that area. I love Annapolis. Last summer 2021, I worked for the Bowie Bay Sox, which is the AA team for the Baltimore Orioles. So what the Bay Sox do is when you go into your first year, your plebe summer, as they call it at the Naval Academy, you spend the entire summer, you're detached, you don't have your phone, you're not talking to people. It's basically a boot camp for the summer. It's the easiest way to put it. Well, the first night that you get free at the Naval Academy, the first time that you're able to go see your parents or whatever, is a night at the Bay Sox game. So they load their buses up, and every member of the plebe class from the Naval Academy comes, thousands of them, and fills up the Bay Sox stadium.
Really?
And they march in. They all march in. They all have their whites on. They come into the stadium, and they sit there, take up half the stadium, the class does. And then after, I think, the national anthem is the first time that they're able to relax and go see their family. So the stadium is filled partially with the plebes, and then the other part is with the families who all want to be there and get pictures and finally see them for the first time in a while. So, my dad was in the Navy. I love the Naval Academy in Annapolis. Bowie, where I worked last year, is just a few miles from Annapolis. So anytime I wanted to get out or do something nice, go to a nice dinner or whatever, you'd go over a few miles down the road and go to Annapolis. It is the best when the weather is good and you can sit at one of the restaurants outside in the marina and you can sit outside right next to the Naval Academy and just look out on the water. It's such a beautiful town. The football stadium is great.
Yep.
It's so ideal. I've done the Army-Navy game before, and the pageantry and everything about it is amazing. Our Army-Navy rotates obviously where they play it every year, and one of the rotations of the stadiums that they play it in is M&T Bank in Baltimore. So I have a bunch of friends that went to the Naval Academy. I have a bunch of friends that went to Army West Point. So it's a fun experience because what they do outside the stadium, or at least when I went, I'm assuming it's the same everywhere, whether it's in Philadelphia or New York, wherever it is. They bring in tanks. They bring in all the history. It's like walking through an exhibit outside the stadium, and then you get into the stadium and everybody there because It's fun listening to interviews leading up to the Army-Navy game, and you realize how much these teams truly hate each other. And everybody from the outside always says in the Army-Navy game, well, they sing it's cool because they sing the national anthem, and at the end of the day, they're all playing for the same team.
Yep.
But when you really boil it down, we talk about, Xavier, Cincinnati, Louisville, Kentucky, Duke,
Sure.
UNC. Those teams truly have, as bad as this sounds, this is going to sound negative, but it's just the truth. They don't have anything else to play for except beating that other team.
That's right.
That's all they play for,
That's
because
right.
they're not competing for national championships
Right.
anymore. This isn't the 60s. They're not competing at the highest level.
That's right.
They have one game a year that matters, and it doesn't matter. They have one game a year that matters, and it's beating the other team. And I love this game. I love everything about it. It's so cool, Tom. I hope you get a chance to go someday
Yeah, me
because
too.
it really is the best.
This rivalry goes back to November the 29th, 1890. They've played it annually every year since 1930. And outside of, most frequently it's been played in Philadelphia, New York, Baltimore, yes. There have been a couple of times, only twice, where they played outside of that, that
corridor.
northeast corridor up there, and that was when they dedicated Soldier Field.
Yep.
So that's where they dedicated that stadium in Chicago. They once played at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. But it's interesting, just a couple little notes, and you can impress your friends around the water cooler with this. Navy midshipman and later admiral Joseph Mason Reeves wore what is widely regarded as the first football helmet in the Army-Navy game of 1893. He had been advised by a Navy doctor that another kick to his head would result in intellectual disability or even death. So he commissioned an Annapolis shoemaker to make the first helmet out of leather.
Really?
How about that?
One other note about this game, that the under has hit in 16 straight years.
Oh, my
in the,
God.
in the
You got to
Army
bring
Navy.
out the gambling.
Well, no,
We're talking
because-
about are you kidding me?
Well,
That's degenerate living right
No,
there.
it's the best. It's the best bet in sports every year. So if you started with $110 in 2006 and you bet the under and rolled it over every year, you'd have $3.4 million.
You have got to be kidding
16
me. Say that again?
So if you started with $110 in 2006 and
2006.
you just bet it on the Army Navy under,
okay.
because they're triple
And
option.
then rolled in your winnings.
And then
to
next
the-
year you took the
Okay.
$200,
Okay.
what you won plus what you'd bet the year before. Right now, you would have $3.4 million.
That
in
is
the bank.
unbelievable. I beg your pardon.
So it's more so a storyline than the gambling. But this year's total, Tom, listen to this. This year's total, every year they make it a little lower because everybody takes the under, 32.5.
Wow.
32.5.
So if you were a betting man, now we'll go into degenerate state. If you were, would you bet the under?
I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Amen. Amen to that.
I hate it because every year I look at it and I'm like, is this the year they go over? And then last year I think they scored 21 points in the first quarter last year or something like that. And I'm sitting there going, oh, well, this is the year. Nope, they didn't score the rest of the game.
The most famous football player to play in the Army-Navy game is a native Cincinnati. Roger Staubach. Of course, he was a quarterback for the Naval Academy. 1965, went on to the Hall of Fame in his great career with the Dallas Cowboys. Played in 2 Super Bowls, wins in 2 Super Bowls, including a most valuable player. And Alejandro Villanueva, outstanding offensive lineman, tackle for a long, long time with the Steelers, later the Ravens. But this is going to be a lot of fun to watch. I'm told in the chat, Don said there is a great series on ESPN about Navy football, which is really, really cool. And everybody, of course, chiming in about Roger Staubach and all that kind of thing. So that's this weekend. And we're going to make that part of our picks tomorrow.
Absolutely.
But we're not doing the over-under. What is the spread in that game?
2.5.
Navy. Favored.
I just X'd it out. Navy's not very good this year. It is Navy, though.
Yeah.
Yep, minus 2.5. Other breaking news.
Yep.
Desmond Ridder just got named starting quarterback of the Atlanta Falcons.
You knew that was coming sooner or later. I'm surprised it took this long, quite frankly. But for a while there, they were right in the hunt in a very bad division. Tampa Bay had to win on a wing and a prayer the other night to go to 6-6, and they're the division leaders. It's been Mariota starting the whole year, and now Desmond Ridder. This is very exciting.
Yeah.
Very exciting. A lot of people wanted this to happen in Atlanta who follow the team. We had Big Low Country early in the year, and he was talking about Desmond Ridder.
Yeah, maybe we
Love
can get him
that
back
guy.
on. I'm sure
Love
he's fired
that guy.
up.
He did something I saw on Twitter. Did you see the thing he posted on Twitter yesterday? He was doing some dance. And Big Low Country's a big dude. I mean, he's a big man. He's got to be going about – he said he played college football, lineman. He's got to be tipping him 270, 280, maybe more. Big Low Country, another great nickname. So he had a great video. Just him dancing. It was really, really cool. All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to talk more about the Bengals. Coming up later, we have Tracy Jones at 11:30. This is Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, and we appreciate you being with us today. Back in a minute.
At United Dairy Farmers, we've perfected freshness in our family bakery, where we use only the finest ingredients, like thick, high-quality glazes on our signature donuts, before delivering them fresh from bakery to store every day. UDF, made for you.
If your AC or furnace is struggling, turn to the experts at Bartell's Heating and Cooling. Their certified technicians get the job done right the first time, and if you need a new unit, Bartell's will give you upfront pricing with no hidden fees. Plus, ask about Bartell's 0% interest financing for 60 months. Learn more at bartellsheatingandcooling.com. Bartell's Heating and Cooling, for a comfortable way of life. Eli's Sports Bar and Grill, proudly sponsoring high school football with 3 locations in Mason, Liberty Township, and Ross, Ohio. Our 10-foot screens guarantee a great view from every seat in the house. Eli's Sports Bar and Grill, the best place in Cincinnati for sports, food, and fun.
Where can you turn when you're in pain? Turn where more high school, college, and pro athletes turn. Where your neighbors and weekend warriors turn. Turn to Beacon Orthopedics and Sports Medicine and get superior care on your schedule. That's the Beacon difference.
Check out our fresh arrivals at Jake Swinney Used Cars. Over 250 used vehicles weekly. All makes, all models. From economy to luxury, Jake Swinney, the original used car superstore.
Also, when I lost in Anaheim, my dad was at the game, and my dad was down and out and sad. And see, back then the older generation, a lot of times they would use negative motivation as like you can't do this or hey man, you won't do that. Where nowadays you can't use negative motivation, to the young kids, because a lot of them will just sit out on you and quit. What I mean? So my dad. Never forget, and I've told people this, he told me, he said, son, I don't know if you'll ever win one, a pennant or not. We didn't win it that year in San Francisco because, we had them down, you know what I mean? And he says, I don't know if you'll ever win one, after this. And that's the first thing that I thought about was say, hey, Dad, you're wrong again. I mean, I swear that's the first thing I thought about. Dad, you're wrong.
Everybody wants to say, Dad, you're wrong, right? There's 2 beds in that room. There's 2 double beds.
Boy, your
in that room. Jim wants to know, said it kind of reminds me of Mr. and Mrs. Wilson on Dennis the Menace. There are a lot of people wondering, what's going on down there. Because you've been very hard on Danae on this program. I mean, you have worn her out when it comes to her choice of accommodations on places where you guys have been staying, whether it was down in Mexico. Right. I think you referred to that 6-star resort as a dump. And then you went on to say that the house you rented down on the Gulf side of Florida here the last couple of weeks was also a dump. Anything you want to share, or would you just rather stay away from that topic?
No, we were catching a situation. There's no doubt about it. But, Casey, this is what you have to look forward to when you're married for 13 years. You see that? No action, pulling no wool, and then going back, pulling no wool. So 13 years of marriage, that's what it gets you. 2 separate queen beds. And you know who Tucker slept with last night? Danae. I'm all by myself, and don't think I'm not going to go to that Taylor Swift concert and get me some phone numbers so I can get a Mrs. Jones number 3, because I will. I ain't messing around.
Paul, I got to ask you, we have the Taylor Swift gate, and that continues to make huge news now, by the way. I don't know if you saw, it's a big story now in Congress where they're wondering this whole ticket fiasco. She was upset about it. Anyway, well documented, you dropping the ball and basically finding other things like Xavier basketball or watching some game from Hawaii at 7:30 in the morning where you just, had a chance to get on the ticket thing and get in and take your girlfriend, to the show, and you screwed it all up, and you've since made amends. But what was her reaction to that last Tracy Jones suggestion, if any, about going to the Taylor Swift concert and getting other phone numbers?
Yeah, I mean, she wasn't a huge fan.
I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, I mean, she wasn't like a huge fan of it. I'll just say it. She wasn't a huge fan. Had to explain the joke to her a little bit.
Does she watch this show, or she's too busy working at school?
So yeah, as I always say, she's teaching the youth of America right now. But if there's something on the show that we talk about, that I'll send her segments and stuff that we go back and do to watch.
All right.
Now, she does catch up on
now,
it.
Paul,
Casey, you seem a little off today.
I mean,
you really seem off. It's coming up in the chat. Everybody's wondering, is there trouble at home? Is there something wrong with the new house? Is your bride-to-be having second thoughts?
No.
are you all right?
Yeah, I'm good. It's the new audio board. I'm just trying to get
we
adjusted.
Can't even see the audio board, Casey. Move it over.
Oh, here. Hold on.
Whoa there. Don't put your hands on stuff you don't know what you're doing. It's like touching a power drill.
Yeah, look at this new audio board we got.
That's pretty big.
It's big. It's a beast, and it's just been different because now everything seems so sensitive. I don't know if anyone in the chat can tell our mics sound a bit different, or if there's even a difference at all. I don't know if anyone can let us know.
Don says it's a big difference, and Don and everybody else bear with us. Casey's over there learning it. He has no time to talk to any of us.
What were you going to ask me, Casey?
I mean, I was just going to say on the Tracy topic.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think he was joking. I think he wants you to actually go get those numbers.
Is he ever
joking?
It's
for your safety. It's for your safety.
He's just looking out for me. That's all he ever is looking out for you and for me.
He texted me the other day after the show, and he said something to the extent of, I can't believe the number of topics we cover in such a short amount of time.
Yeah,
there's no stone left unturned.
Absolutely not. And he's got something special for us
But what are we going to talk? I want to hear some guys in the chat today, if you don't mind. And I mean, the numbers just continue to grow and grow every single day, and even on Twitter and on now Facebook, where we're streaming live. What are we going to talk to Tracy about today? There's been a lot more baseball signings. The one thing I do want to ask him a little bit about are the comments made by Nick Kroll yesterday, the Reds general manager from the baseball winter meetings in San Diego. Basically saying, in a nutshell, to free agents out there, not the guys everybody's going after, not the Bogarts and not the Trey Turners and not the even Josh Bells of the world, but he's basically laying out there and saying that, look, if you're a player who's looking to get your career back on track, the Reds play in a hitter-friendly ballpark. Why not sign here for a year? And once you have a great year, you're out on the free agent market next year. And I'm curious if that would ring true for a guy and what their thoughts would be about that from Tracy, because he was a player, played for 5 different teams, had a choice sometimes to go places, other times he got traded. But what else do we want to ask the Tracer about today?
You know, I actually have something. And it's something we should have asked him Tuesday. Because he's telling us he's a big Kansas City fan. And they just lost to the Bengals.
You're right, Casey.
And we didn't get his reaction at all.
He said he was going to the game.
Well, he was in California.
No, then he changed his mind. He was going out of town. He forgot.
Well, he needed a break.
He needed a break, yeah. But did he watch the game? How did he feel about the game? Does he still love Cincinnati? Because he said he loved the people of Cincinnati.
Yes, he does.
Last show.
And Northern Kentucky.
I'm hoping I don't bring up hard feelings, because I know he was a big Chiefs fan. Well, he says he's a big Chiefs fan. He's also a really big Tom Brady fan, so I don't know how those two coexist. So I want to know what is his true NFL fandom? Is it Kansas City or is it Tom Brady?
Well, I think it's easy to like
multiple
Tom Brady, and then whatever team it is you root for. I mean, look, Brady. I'm not the first guy, obviously, that's ever said. I mean, he is the greatest quarterback, and you can make an argument. I would say Jerry Rice, but you can make an argument is the greatest player in the history of football, pro, college, all of it. And what he's done and his level of excellence, his level of commitment, there's a lot to admire. Nobody's perfect. We know that. People make mistakes. Things happen in their lives. They go through tough times on the field, off the field, whatever it might be. But Brady is the gold standard in every way imaginable. His teammates love him. They see what a grinder he is. They see the level of commitment he makes. A lot of people, they walk around bad-mouthing the whole TB12 and the diet and the sleep and all that kind of. Hey, look, you can't argue with what the guy's done, right? I mean, if he wants to go to bed every night at 8:30 and get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and start working out every day, rarely ever has a cold beer, the foods that he eats, all the other kind of stuff. I mean, I'm not doing that. I'm going to have multiple beers later tonight with about 7 or 8 of my homeboys. But I'm not Thom Brennaman. We only share the same initials. I'm not Tom Brady. We only share the same initials. What
was your number when you played sports? What was the number that you chose?
Well, depending on the sport. Basketball, 31. My favorite, one of my all-time favorite players in basketball was a great player at North Carolina, played in the NBA a long time, a guy named Mike O'Koren. You wouldn't remember that name, but he was a great player at North Carolina. So anyway, let's see. What are some of the let's see. Alex says he'd like to hear some stories from Tracy about old Reds rumors. I'm not getting into rumors. I'll get into stories. Can the players be locked out until Major League Baseball can fix the salary discrepancies in the game? They just signed a brand new long-term collective bargaining agreement. So the answer is no. The Real Spirit Cat 1 says, if that's the best pitch the Reds have to free agents, we're screwed. Listen, it's the only pitch you have to free agents. Right?
Yeah.
They're not going to spend any money, they being the Reds. They're not alone. They're not going to spend any money. They're trying to rebuild this thing around the young pitching staff. I would imagine when those guys, get another full season under their belt, the Hunter Greens, the Lodolos, the Ashcrafts, so on and so forth, these young minor league players are coming up. That would be the time to go out and now pluck free agent here, pluck free agent there, offensive player, maybe bullpen guy, when you're ready to compete. There's no sense in spending a bunch of money right now if you made the decision that this is the direction we're going to go in. Whether you or I agree with it is irrelevant. But that's the only pitch you have. If you're a guy, and I use Tommy Pham as an example, whether you like Pham or didn't like him, the guy has had a really good major league career. The Reds went out and signed him to come here to get his career back on track, right? Now, he wasn't great, but he wasn't bad. And so, they eventually trade him at the trade deadline. But for right now, that is the only pitch. You say to a guy, maybe you were hurt last year, maybe you had a bad year last year, come here, take your chances playing for this team in this ballpark, start putting up some good numbers, and one of two things can happen. Number one, the Reds can use that player as a chip at the trade deadline, right? You might actually get something decent in return from something you really didn't pay a lot to get to begin with. And number two, the guy has a good year, and good for him. God bless him. He goes off and signs a big free agent deal somebody else at the end of the year because you're not going to re-sign. Crickets over there.
I have a question, actually. And I'm not sure if this is me just being naive, but what if the Reds were just honest and said, free agency this year, we are just going to save money for the next year or whatever, and just flat out said it. And they just told the fans, this is going to be a rebuild year. We're not going to spend a bunch of money so we can save up payroll. And then go after some guys next year or whatever the case may be. Because that's what the plan is, right? They're just doing this because they want fans to get into the stadium. They just pick out some random guy, right? So, I mean, why not just be honest, save up all your money instead?
Haven't they kind of basically said that
They
already?
basically, yeah. I mean, in case of your spot, that's basically what they've said. Already said it.
Did they say it like verbally though?
Yeah,
like
I mean,
they
Nick,
came out
Nick,
and said.
Nick has come out and look, Nick Krall's in a tough spot here because I've said it many, many times before. I think Nick Krall is going to be an outstanding general manager, but let's be honest about it, right? It's no different than being a manager. I mean, look at Joe Torre. When Joe Torre managed for the Atlanta Braves and the St. Louis Cardinals, he had no players. Players win games. Managers can create a culture and all that kind of thing, and I think they're more important in baseball than some other people might think, especially the analytics crowd. But look, if you don't have players, and then Joe Torre goes to the New York Yankees, he's in the Baseball Hall of Fame as a manager. Yeah, Derek Jeter, right? Mariano Rivera, Andy Pettitte, Roger Clemens, blah, 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 right on down the line. Bernie Williams. So it's the same thing for a general manager. Nick Krall can only do, so much. If your hands are tied in terms of payroll, what's he going to do? What's he going to do? Part of his job is to oversee scouting, player development, drafting. Those are all on him. All on him. And I think the biggest factor the Reds have been in that's caused their biggest problems is lack of player development. I think there are so many other franchises that are just doing it better. Now, is that changing under Nick Krall's leadership? I have no idea. I'm not around the team anymore. I'm not around the franchise anymore. They gave me the boot. So, but I still believe Nick Krall, if given a legitimate chance, is going to be an excellent general manager.
I think that's the thing. You hit the nail on the head. If he's given a genuine, real chance. But all we keep doing is talking ourselves in circles.
Yeah, that's right.
All we keep doing is saying the same thing over and over and over. And I think Trace and Nick Kirby had a good point last week when Nick was up here and he was talking about it and trying to generate some positivity for this team, because eventually you'd like to think that things are going to turn around. But all we keep doing is saying the same thing over and over, and there's just no light at the end of the tunnel right now. And that's the thing. Like, I remember in 2008, 2009, being a Nationals fan, Reed would say the same thing about being a Cubs fan. I remember back in 2008, 2009, and I sat there, I watched the Nats. I watched almost every game. but I would also turn on the San Diego State games when Steven Strasburg was pitching. I'd read the articles about Bryce Harper in junior college, and I knew that those two guys were going to be a part of my team down the line. What did they do? Drafted Steven Strasburg first overall, drafted Bryce Harper first overall. Harper didn't stay long enough to win a title, but Strasburg was the World Series MVP. You knew there was a plan there. Mike Rizzo had a plan the entire time. I use the Nationals as an example. The Cubs were the same way. I remember reading those stories, the great stories after the Cubs won the World Series about, how they would sit up in the suite during a game at Wrigley Field, and they'd sit there, the front office would.
Theo Epstein.
And those
Hoyer.
guys. Theo would sit up there up in the front office, and he would be watching the Cubs game, but he'd have all the minor league games on, and he just kept saying, it's all right. It's coming. The future's here. It's coming.
Well, but here's the thing, though. Okay, here's the difference. Go ahead and finish. I'll let you finish.
No. And all I was going to say to finish is we keep being sold on all these minor leaguers, Hunter Green, Nick Senzel, Ellie De La Cruz down the line. Eventually, these guys are going to have to pan out. And I'm not saying Hunter Green is bad, but Nick Senzel hasn't been great. And
boy, that's an understatement.
I'm just saying we were sold on Nick Senzel for so long, and now it's just like.
Well, but here's the deal, okay? In fairness to Senzel, and look, I the guy's been hurt a lot, so guys hurt. But here's the difference, though, and I when you talk about the Nationals and a rebuild, okay? Strasburg, Bryce Harper, among other. Anthony Rendon was a huge part of that whole thing, right? Okay. Trey Turner was a huge part of that.
Massive part of that.
Okay, so here's what I'm saying. Those guys come through the system. But when the time came where all those guys were ready to really compete, to win, they bring in Max Scherzer. Big money, right? They bring in Jason Worth, who was a very good player before he got to Washington, with an underrated player, right?
Yeah. Jason Worth signing that deal, that was when the Nationals franchise turned around.
But what I'm making is they went out and they spent the money on some established players, Hall of Famer in Max Scherzer's case. But there were other guys they brought onto that team that combined with the players in their system built a World Series championship team. The same thing is with the Cubs. I remember going in there when they lost 100 and whatever it was games, and they got Rizzo, and they got Baez, and they got Bryant, and they got Soler, and they got all these guys running around, right? What did they do? They knew these guys were ready to compete. They thought this was the core of a championship team. So we're going to make a trade for Jake Arrieta. We're going to go get John Lester. We're going to go start spending some money to plug. We're going to go get Ben Zobrist. We're going to go get all these different guys, right, to start Dexter Fowler, start filling in these holes, Jason Hayward, all these guys, to start filling in these holes and spending the big money because now we're ready to win. So for the Reds, if, and it's a big if, and you cross your fingers, say your prayers, knock on wood, whatever it is you want to do. If these pitchers are indeed ready for prime time in another year or two from now, and I'm not talking about guys that are just okay. I'm talking about guys where you look at and say, every day we go play 1 through 4 or 1 through 5 in our rotation, we got a legitimate chance to win the game. In fact, a better than legitimate chance to win the game. And maybe 2 or 3 of your prospects hit. I'm not all in on India yet. Tyler Stevenson can't get on the field. So I'm not ready to say both just because the guy won the Rookie of the Year, he came back and hit 240 this year, was hurt a lot. Stevenson has had major injury issues. And I root for the kid. He's a nice kid. He's a smart kid. He's a good kid. But, when the time comes, if some of these prospects now over the next year or two, won't be this year for many of them because most of them are at the lower levels of the minor leagues, then we'll find out if the Reds are in it to win it. Because are then they going to go out and start spending some cash to win some games? That makes sense?
Yeah. Yep.
I have another weird thought. I want to know what your guys' take on this because I've been a football fan most of my life. Bengals struggled most of my lifetime. They get a quarterback in Joe Burrow after being really miserable. And I know we've had this conversation before about how the NFL's way of doing things in free agency and the draft and how it works, that when you're bad, you get better players and you end up being better most of the time. But in baseball, there's not like you don't just draft someone or get one player and it changes the whole franchise.
Well, there have been Bryce Harper, I think, changed the whole.
But they're very far.
Ken Griffey Jr. in Seattle. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Get your point, though.
Yeah.
But like in football, like there's Justin Herbert that went to the Chargers, changes their team completely. Like it happens way more often in the NFL. It's a shame that the Reds, who have been in positions to have guys in the top 10 in the draft or whoever in free agency, and they just don't pan out at all.
No.
Like that's hard.
I mean, they went through a decade of drafting guys in the first round, and not every one of them were top 5, top 10 picks, but a lot of them were. Where, I mean, they never sniffed the major leagues. And if they did, it was as a 4th, 5th outfielder, Phillip Ervin, guy like him. I really liked that kid. But, I mean, he was what he was by the time he got here.
And so my question is baseball harder to scout talent than it is in other sports? Why is it so hard to develop these players? Because other teams seem to do very well at it, like you've said before, like some of the bigger market teams. Is it just that we don't have the right guys in there, or is it just that hard?
Is it a development thing, or is it an evaluation
Well, I
thing?
think it's both. I think it's clearly both. The Reds had a run there. Ty Howington, the kid out of Virginia, the big left-hander. I'm drawing a blank on his name. They were number 1 pick. You start drafting guys. And look, Senzel it would fit this same category, where you draft him at a position, okay? And they've asked Senzel now to change positions 3 or 4 times while the guy's just trying to get his feet on the ground to establish himself as a player. I'm not making excuses for Senzel, but that's a fact. Jonathan India, they've done the same thing, okay? He came out of Florida as a third baseman. They've moved him to second base. And at least statistically, he's one of the worst defensive second basemen in baseball. Are you surprised? Seriously, you surprised that the guy all of a sudden is struggling in a new position? Now, maybe he'll get better. And I hear he's a hard worker. I hear he cares. But look, the difference between football and baseball is night and day because of the level at which you play before you step into the quote-unquote big leagues, okay? You can play in the SEC or the ACC in baseball and be a big star and be the player of the year. The second you get drafted, your ass is sent down to single A and double A, okay? You're not walking into the big leagues more times than not unless you're Mike Leake. You're not ready for the big leagues. There have been 17 guys in the history of the game that walked out of being drafted that went straight into the major leagues.
Whereas there's tons of football
Well,
players. that are
every
NFL
football
ready.
Every
player,
football
every
player.
single one of them. Doesn't matter if you're a 5th-round offensive line pick out of Western Michigan. Your next job is playing in the National Football League. And so, a lot of times, especially when you're drafting, I mean, can you imagine what football would be like if you were drafting high school players?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
You'd be in the
it'd be
same
terrible.
boat. You'd be in the same boat.
NBA should be able to draft high school players, but that's a different conversation. I don't need to get on my soapbox about that one. Yeah, it's disappointing.
Look, Reed Mouse points out it's a great point here. Look at the Angels of Anaheim, Los Angeles, whatever they're called, California, Anaheim, LA of Anaheim. They have 2 players on that team that could go down as 2 of the top 10 players of all time. If Ohtani keeps going the way he's going, right? We know all about Mike Trout.
Yeah.
And they stink.
Well, that's that classic tweet where it's Tungsten Armo Doyle or whatever it is. You ever seen that tweet?
No.
Oh, it's one of the greatest tweets. Yeah, hold on. I'll find it. Because I don't want to mess it up. It's one of the best tweets on baseball Twitter. Here, I'll pull it up.
Seth Pryor just said the blueprint for the Reds' future was announced at Reds Fest last weekend. Nick Kroll and management said, quote, "We are building from within our farm system and with our current young, talented players," which they allegedly have. But I never buy the minor league thing. I just don't buy it. And there are people who make an honest living, and God bless them, following minor league baseball and what guys are going to project and all this kind of stuff. They have no more idea than the man on the moon. No clue. Baseball is littered with high expectation minor league players that just simply don't do it in the big leagues.
All right, Casey, you have
When they get to the big leagues, let's talk about them. I'm not spending all summer on this show talking about De La Cruz. It ain't happening.
Well, what else are we going to talk about?
That's a very good question.
Where else are
the
we
show
gonna
might go off the air.
Yeah, so this is one of the best tweets on baseball Twitter, and people that are on Twitter probably know what I'm talking about here. So bring this up. This is, I don't know who this is that tweeted this, but it is the best. It's just the best. Every time I see an Angels highlight, it's like Mike Trout hit 3 home runs and raised his average to 528, while Shohei Ohtani did something that hasn't been done since Tungsten Armo Doyle of the 1921 Akron Groomsmen, as the Tigers defeated the Angels 8-3.
Yeah.
That's it.
I like that next tweet on there. Gene mocks Ghost. Yeah, that's a great tweet, and it's the truth. It's the truth. And that's where, the Angels, by the way, are now up for sale. Rob Manfred addressed this the other day. Artie Moreno, who I know quite well, he was one of the original investors with the Arizona Diamondbacks and tried to buy the Diamondbacks outright. He was part of the original group. He's an amazing story. I mean, he's been killed out there in L.A. for his ownership of the team and the things he's done and all that kind of stuff. But this guy, you talk about a self-made man. This guy came from nothing and became the billboard king all over America, and he's getting out. He's done with all of it, and Lord knows how much he's going to make from a sale of that team. Man, it's got to be $3-4 billion. I heard Bill Cunningham say yesterday on the radio driving out of here after we were done that somebody recently put the value of the Reds at $2 billion. I don't believe that for a second. Not for a second.
Chatterbox Sports, we're buying it.
What's that?
We're buying the Reds.
Are we? Chatterbox?
Yeah. We're going in on it together.
Who's the GM? You?
Reed.
Huh?
Reed.
Sir Boy Wonder's the field manager.
Really?
Yeah. I think we could build out a nice little front office.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay. What would Casey's job be?
He's the video board producer.
Very nice. You took the words right out of my mouth. The in-game entertainment. And Lord knows, that is a big-time job.
Yeah.
There are some people that do it right, and there are other people that it's brutal. Nowhere's better than Milwaukee. The best.
I've never been there.
Best music. They got it all. The best.
Casey's the ball boy. A funny story about the ball boy.
Who just said that? Who said that is just wrong.
Bat boy
Everett.
and ball boy.
Everett, that's wrong.
I'll have to bring up the clip.
Nathan said Casey Bat Boy. That's wrong. Casey would be the mascot, according to Anonymous.
Would he be?
There's a couple of different.
Yeah. Would he be
mascots
Gapper? Would he be Mr. Red? Funny story though, Tom, about the ball boy and the bat boy. I don't know if I've told you this. I was the ball boy at your dad's last game.
Were you really?
Yeah. So one of the people that assigns the ball boys had a connection to Xavier, and they were scrambling trying to find somebody. And I was like, if you need somebody, I'll go down and watch the game for free. So
you were sitting down the line down there on one of those little stools?
I have the highlights. I made a couple plays.
Come on.
I do. I have it.
We got to see that.
I have it. I'll bring it up.
You know what? Save that. Bring it up. Save that for the tracer.
All right. Yeah.
All right. But I want to walk through just very quickly. So you're saying ultimately Casey is the guy who's in-game entertainment producer, lead man on the whole thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Reed Mouse is our general manager.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Sir Boy Wonder is the field manager.
He's the field manager.
He's the field manager. What about the Dunts?
Bat Boy?
He interviews all the front office personnel after every game.
Yes. Yeah, he's yeah.
Before every
He's the field reporter.
Okay. All right. And what about Trace? I mean, Trace is a big boss. You better be careful here.
He's playing.
Well, is he president?
He's the owner. Yeah.
President of the team.
President. Yeah.
Okay. No, I think you ought to be the president. Trace is the owner.
Okay. That's fine.
Sean Spurlock will be our head of player development.
Yeah, he would love that title.
Yeah, he would do great in that job. He's trying to develop some talent around here, and it's not going too good. So I don't know what his. Our manager was handed the keys to a Pinto, says Don, and told to make it run like a Ferrari. What's wrong with a Pinto? I had a lot of great days growing up in a Pinto. Brandon Seho, it says here from Everett, would be the beer tester. That's a good job.
So the chef.
I might want that job. Okay.
What did your dad retire in 18 or 19?
19.
Marty party.
That's right. It's all about Marty.
I was standing next to you, and you didn't even know it.
Didn't even know it.
On the field after the game.
After the game, it was so much fun. It was a cool moment. All right, boys, before we get to Tracy here in about 7 minutes, and we have a lot of time tomorrow to get into this. But, you heard James Rapine say a little while ago, just another divisional game for the Bengalis.
Yep.
I have a hard time believing that.
Really?
I do. I have a hard time believing it. There's no way that somebody can make the statement, and James didn't make it, but he basically dispelled it. There's no way until you exorcise that demon. There's no way that the overwhelming majority of players that you have playing in this game on Sunday have been with this team the last 2 or 3 years and have had their brains kicked in by the Cleveland Browns. There's no way you can make me believe that there is not something there for the Browns living in their heads. I'm not buying it. The Bengals have had better teams. They haven't won. They're better this year. They've lost already once and got drilled once. They didn't get beat. That's the worst beat down they've taken the only beat down they've taken this year.
Yeah, I mean, if you really want to get into it, there's an argument to be made that the Bengals could very easily be 11-1 this year.
No doubt about it.
You could make a very easy argument.
Yeah.
Now it's the NFL. Weird things happen. Obviously, your long snapper gets hurt. Dallas, whatever. But you and I could sit down and have a very easy argument that the Bengals could be 11-1. But that one loss, woof.
Yeah, you can't.
They're not
wish
undefeated.
that one back. They weren't even on the freeway.
Yeah, you can't say they were 12-0.
No.
Well, things would have gone right in Cleveland.
No. But Casey, you just keep shaking your head over there. Just keep shaking your head.
The Browns stink, so that's all I got to say. And they are – I can tell that it is just a divisional game, but a divisional game is taken pretty seriously in Cincinnati. So I don't think the statement's wrong. I just don't think that they're going to panic about it. They're not like this is obviously all divisional games are must-wins. Obviously. So there's not like a level of urgency that wasn't already going to be there. Does that make any sense?
It makes perfect sense.
So to me, what he said wasn't too far-fetched, but I do think Joe Burrow is looking forward to getting the monkey off his back.
You can't be a true leader of men if you've never beaten the Cleveland Browns.
And I couldn't agree with you more.
I mean, there are leaders of men. And then there are borderline.
I like it.
Ready to grab the mantle. Right?
Now, if he wins if he beats the Browns, does he get the title?
He gets the full blown out version that I gave Sonny Dykes 2 days ago, that we've given Urban, right?
Yep.
And some others. But till you beat the Cleveland Browns, okay?
Here he is.
All right, here we go.
We do have the video loaded up whenever you want to get to it.
All right, the best 30 minutes of television twice a week is the Tracer, who is back in his palatial estate along the banks of the mighty Ohio on the northern Kentucky side, I might add, not on the Cincinnati OHIO side. Tracer, how was the journey back, the first-class flight, the red-eye flight? I've been on that flight.
Ooh.
I mean, I don't know how many dozens and dozens of times flying back from football and baseball games. That's a brutal flight.
It's tough. It really is. Can you play that video, please, for me? It's kind of self-explanatory. I don't need to set up. Casey, you have that video? This will talk about the first class, sitting in first class. Go ahead.
Yes, I do have
wow.
it.
I didn't know we had video.
Yeah, I actually took a video.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Is that incredible?
so that's
Is that
first class?
incredible? That's what, see, Casey, I did this for Casey and Paulie and all you ham and eggers who watch this podcast. You can live vicariously through me, through my life experience. That's what it looks like, my visual, when you fly first class. And I know you guys will never get a chance to do that. Tom, you of course have. But Paulie, that was for you, Casey, and all you ham and eggers. That's what it's like to fly first class. Did you see the blue lights? How cool was that? You couldn't hear the music, special music. Did you see that big screen TV I had? That was HD. Now listen, why do you laugh, Tom? You could get Netflix, Hulu, adult films. You can get everything on that TV. It's really quite incredible sitting in first class. It's a great experience, and I'm just trying to help you people out.
You know, watching that video, a couple of people walked by with masks on, right?
Yes.
Are you one of those guys who sits in first class? And look, I'll be transparent here. I would sort of wrestle with this from time to time, where you get to feeling maybe a little bit guilty, being up there where everybody else is sludging their way to the back of the plane. Do you kind of keep your head down as everybody's walking by, or are you looking up saying hello to people? Everybody recognizes you by and large. I mean, how do you handle that?
No, absolutely. Here it is. It's not upon me to look away. It's you people. Don't look me in the eye. Just keep walking. Back of the plane. Did you see the one guy with the mask?
Yes.
Obviously a Democrat, a liberal. He wore that mask. And I want to shame that guy. He went and used our bathroom, first class bathroom. Can you believe that? You're not supposed to do that. You can't use our bathroom.
Tracy, you got to go. You got to go. Sometimes there's a line, and I'm finding this out the way I fly now. Because there was a time I was in first class a lot. All the time. But not anymore.
Yes.
I'm back there with the rest of the schmoes, ham and eggers, so I'm now officially a ham and egger. Look, sometimes you got to go. You got to go. You get to be a cat our age. That guy looked like he was roughly our age. You know how it goes when it comes upon you. It's right now, man. And you can't be waiting in line 7 or 8 deep, right? I mean, so what's wrong with the dude using your bathroom?
Then pay for first class. I don't want you coming through. Listen, first of all, he bumped it. Here's what happened. Here's why I'm upset. Once that curtain closed, you guys are out. Nothing. You don't come through that curtain, right? It's done. A lot of things go down when you're in first class behind that curtain. Let me tell you what happened. So I'm sitting there. It's time for my meal, right? So I don't know if you've ever
experienced And that's a big league
this.
meal, right? Big league meal.
It's a big person comes in, the chef, not the stewardess, the chef actually comes in and fixed my Caesar salad right at my seat. Cracked the egg, the anchovies, chopped little Caesar. He says, Mr. Jones, you want chicken in that Caesar? And here comes the guy with the mask. Boom, hit my guy making my Caesar salad. Know your role, and it's in the back of the plane. Well, that Caesar salad was tasty.
Who eats a Caesar salad on a red eye?
People in first class.
Okay. I want to get some video here, Tracer, and get your reaction. We learned before you came on for the first time today that my dad's last game as the play-by-play radio voice of the Cincinnati Reds, that was a day game, that Paul Fritzner, believe it or not, was a ball boy for that game. Apparently, powers that be are scrambling around, trying to get somebody from Xavier. Paul, right? Fill in the blank for the Tracer here.
Yeah, basically, Tracy, I was kind of on a fill-in list for about a year. I think I did like 3 or 4 games, and they called me a couple days before the game, and they said, hey, I don't know if the guy backed out, whatever it was, that they needed somebody down the left field line. And I realized it was Marty's last game. They were doing the party afterwards, and I was like, hey, well, I was probably going to go to the game anyway, so might as well be on the field. Might as well be an active participant in the game. So here we go. I have the video from it. I made 2 plays in the game.
Let's see it.
Here's the form.
All right.
So he's obviously up the third base line.
Boom, look at that. Backhand.
Boy, that's nice.
Backhand play.
Quick
Now wait.
Backhand, very nice.
There's your dad.
Okay.
Now here we go. Play number 2. Look at this. Just another one right off the wall. Read it. Right to me. Look at that form. Right to the fan.
Okay. Can I tell you something?
Hey, 2 for 2. 2 ground balls. Fielded cleanly. Made the flip to the kid in the stands. Pretty good.
And that's the problem. Okay. Can you imagine Paulie flipping the ball to the stands when Marge Schott was the owner? You know that was a no-no. You agree with that, Tom? You could not, the ball boy would be fired. True story. And it happened when I played. You could not take that ball and throw it in the stands.
Okay, but what
she would not allow that.
Look, the point of this video was to get your take on his athleticism there. I thought he looked very impressive. He had good footwork.
Yeah.
He had quick reaction time. Ball comes off the wall. Could have gone to the glove side. Backhand, bam. I mean,
I thought the backhand, no, I'm going to give him credit. I thought the backhand was pretty good. But when you field a ground ball right at you, Paul, you start with your glove down. Okay? It's down, up. It's easier to come up. Barry Larkin will tell you that. It's not up, down. And so you had to make that last little strike at the ball. Start with your glove down on the ground, okay? And then your feet were a little too far apart. So, okay. But all in all, it was probably a C. If I had to grade those 2 plays, I would get C+, which is good.
Well, I mean, that's a tough grade. I mean,
Paulie, when you played,
I thought he was in the B range, if not the low A range. I thought it was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
When he played ball, were you an infielder or an outfielder?
I pitched a lot.
Okay.
Yeah. When I didn't pitch, I played first because I was tall enough that I could stretch out.
God, how much you weigh there?
Oh,
You're a tall drink of water.
He's a tall dude now.
I'm tall, Tracy, but I weigh about 175 pounds.
See, Tracy wouldn't know because Tracy is always on the show from a 6-star resort in Mexico or a beach house in Florida or Southern California at his brother's house or his estate in Northern Kentucky. He really doesn't know anything about any of us and what we look like.
Or do I care?
Build.
Well, sure.
Go ahead. Sorry for interrupting.
Well, Tracy, I just want to say, Casey and I were talking about it the other day, and Tom and we were all going back and forth, and you had mentioned going back out of town, and Tom was asking where you were going. I said, well, Tom, it doesn't really matter. I'm just glad that after all the hard work you've put in this week, because I know obviously for you it's been a tough week, a long, hard week of work, that you're able to just get back out of town. I appreciate that. Good for you.
Well, here's the point of this, and I hate to make this segment about me. It's always about me, and I'm sure the viewers get really tired of it.
No, they love it. We get all kinds of comments. They love it.
Yeah, I bet you get all kinds of comments. I'm going out to Los Angeles tomorrow, but this is business, not pleasure.
Wait a minute. So wait. You were in Orange County, right?
I was in Long Beach.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, same area.
Yeah, same area. Okay, you were down in Long Beach Tuesday. You fly back on a red-eye Tuesday. You're here yesterday getting your feet back underneath you, and tomorrow you're going back to Southern California. Why in the world didn't you just stay there?
Well, because we had a plane flight, I had to hit. I didn't want to pay for the change of flight. I don't know if you guys have read about this, but it's actually a business I'm going to collect some money. Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, has proposed a $223,000 for each black Californian for reparations.
Yes.
I've talked about it before. I'm 3% black. Remember, my great grandma was black. So I'm figuring how much am I entitled to, and I did a quick calculation. I get $6,690 in reparations because I am from California. 3% black, so I get a cut of that, and I've already rolled that in to a 6-star resort in Bora Bora. So that's in 3 months. Do you guys have any comments on that? Any advice?
Hey, look.
You want to touch that?
Look, you know what? Just you going to Bora Bora. Now, there is a place where I would like you to join the show from. I shared with you that my wife and I, Polly and I, went there on our honeymoon. We actually brought a dog back from Bora Bora.
Right.
We've talked about that before. So are you taking Danae with you to Bora Bora, or no, just you going to hang out for a while?
I think I'm just going to go by myself. Of course, I'm going to a clothing optional resort. I'm always like to walk the beach. So I don't think I'll bring Danae. I think she's had enough vacation time. You know, it's tough when you're paying the whole bill. She's kind of a bit of a freeloader, if you know what I mean.
But you said that she has more money than you do.
Yeah, but she's tight like me. She don't like to spend it. Remember, she has that saying, you know, what's hers is hers, what's mine is hers. That's her philosophy, which I told you she was smart, Tom.
Listen, fellas, is there anything else? Casey, would you like to say hello to Tracy? Is there anything you'd like to get into with him at all?
Yeah, Tracy, hello. How you doing?
How you doing, Kate?
Doing good. I remembered, and I should have remembered Tuesday to ask you this, because you talked about being a Kansas City fan and that you were going to go down and tailgate and whatnot, and they ended up losing last Sunday to the Bengals. Are you okay?
We'll see what happens come playoff time. That's a good matchup, though. God, Joe Burrow's good. Love that guy.
He is good.
And so's Mahomes. That was a great game. Great
It really
game.
was.
But we'll see what happens in playoff. Those guys will match up again, in my opinion.
You think it's another AFC Championship rematch?
I do. I think they're by far the best two teams, and that's just my take. But we'll see what happens next time around.
My last question. Do you think this is the next Peyton versus Tom Brady? Joe Burrow and Mahomes. You think this is a matchup that we're going to see for a decade?
Boy, that's a good question. I never thought about that. They're both young. Both have stayed pretty much healthy. I could see that. I mean, there's so many good quarterbacks.
Yeah.
The guy in San Diego, I'll tell you who's underrated, is the guy in San Diego. What's his name, Tom?
Justin Herbert. And by the way, they don't play in
San
San Diego anymore. They play in L.A.
Yeah, that's right. That's where you pay $100 to park your car there in Inglewood.
Right.
But Herbert, I was watching him against the Raiders. You know, he's got no offensive line at all.
Yep.
I mean, he just gets beat up, and boy, that guy can sling it. You've got Herbert's outside. I think he's the most underrated. I think the most overrated quarterback is David Carr. I was watching him as well. No comparison between the two. Or even, going with Burrow or Mahomes or Rodgers or Brady or some of those guys. Or even a guy like Drew Brees. I thought Drew Brees was underrated. So many great quarterbacks.
Well, those are real athletes, tough guys, Tracy. I mean, seriously. You baseball players, you run around in a big diamond. Every blue moon you get a ball hit to you. Guys like Herbert, I mean, they're getting killed back there and they just get up and keep on playing. They're not like these soccer players and these baseball players and, all these
how
guys
dare you.
flopping
You better
around.
watch your mouth. You better watch. We're not like those grass fairies playing soccer. Hey, listen, Hey, what about my call on USC and TCU? I told you they weren't very good, didn't I?
What are you talking about? TCU got beaten overtime by the 10th ranked team in the country.
Oh, come on. I told you they weren't that good.
They are good. They're good.
You really think so?
They're going to beat Michigan in the national semis.
Oh,
and
you
have
want
a
to bet on
rematch
that?
of Ohio State v. Michigan. Will be the highest rated television college football game of all time.
Listen here, big shot. You want to bet on that? I'll tell you what, let's bet a steak. Now, I'm not talking something from Golden Corral or Ponderosa or Ruby's. I'm talking about a really good steak.
Did you just put Ruby's in the same sentence as Golden Corral and Ponderosa?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did that slip? Sorry. That was a Freudian slip. Sorry. Hey, I do have something on a serious note. Can we break it down a little bit?
Yes, but I do want to ask you about a couple of takes that you have before we get to this real quick. You're going out of town again, so I'm assuming you're not going to watch it. But, you know, around here, Tracy, they have something called the Crosstown Shootout, where UC plays Xavier in basketball. Do you have any interest in that game at all? Any take on that game at all?
No. Can we get to my topic?
All right, wait a minute. I want to ask you about Army-Navy. Now, those are real men. Real men, Tracer. Playing football this week. It goes back to 1890, Tracy. This is a matchup of what I like to call real men.
You know, I'm not going to, you know how I love the military, right? They're police officers. I come from a family of police officers and actually a lot of military people. The visual that I would like to see, I would like to see Joe Biden walk on the field and see what kind of reception if he would get the same reception as Trump did. Wouldn't you like to see that, Tommy?
I'm asking you about the game and the men who play in the game.
Who's favored?
Navy.
Navy.
2.5.
Who are you taking, Tom?
I'm taking the Naval Academy for sure.
Okay, I'll take Army. And can we place that bet another steak dinner?
You got it. You got it. You got it.
All right, let's put a couple of bets on this.
We have a woman who only joins us, Tracy, on the chat whenever you're on. And she says, quote, per usual, Tracy is looking very hot.
Listen here. Is this you sure it's not your mother-in-law?
I'm quite sure it's not her.
Okay. What's her name?
Who?
What's her name? With this woman that's got the hots for me.
Sharon.
Okay, Sharon, can you do me a favor and DM me? Okay? Just send a picture maybe in your bathing suit, something like that. And I mean, my wife doesn't care. We could do that.
All right, what's the topic you wanted to get into?
Okay. Are you guys bothered at all of all the money that's being spent in baseball? And the Reds have done nothing. They signed Luke Maile out of Covcath, which I've met Luke a couple times. Great kid, by the way. First class, very good ball player, Kentucky Player of the Year. I've met him. Very nice kid. I'm not knocking Luke, but that's your big signing? Why these other teams are spending millions and millions and millions of dollars. And Tom, it's really quite simple. Out of the 30 teams, now you're going to learn something here. I like to educate you people.
Yes.
Do you know how many billionaires are how many owners that are billionaires in baseball? There's 30 teams, right?
Yeah.
Do you know how many billionaires? Go ahead. Billionaires.
I'm going to say there's probably only about 3 or 4, maybe if that. Maybe not even that many. Might be 0.
Paulie, you want to guess?
I would. I'm trying to go through them in my head.
You think about it, Casey. Paulie thinks a little slow. Casey, you want 2. You ready for this, boys? 24 out of 30. There's only 6 owners that are not billionaires, and the one who has the least net worth, and I'm not knocking him because he's certainly got a lot more money than I do. Just give me some more time, though. Castellini is worth $440 million. His net worth is the least. This is my point. he has no other choice in the next couple of years to sell the team. Tom, this is a hobby for these billionaires. It's not, they don't want to lose money, but they're not looking to make a ton of money. He can't compete with that. It's not a knock on Castellini. He's been extremely successful. I mean, $440 million net worth compared to some people that have $6 billion. It's just unfair for the Reds. They can't.
Well. Now, I have no doubt that what you just said is 100% accurate, but here's the deal on the Reds ownership, okay? As you know, they have multiple people, dozens of people that have money in the team, okay? You've got the Williams brothers, Tom and Joe Williams, that have a big chunk of money in there. You've got a number of other guys that pooled together at the time. I think one share of the team when they first bought the team was worth $6 million. So maybe, you, me, and 7 other guys ponied up to get to the $6 million. So the ownership group of the Reds collectively is without question a billionaire. If you combine the money that they have total, there is no doubt that all of those guys combined, and I could rip off the names, but I'm not going to do it. Those guys, if you added them all up, easily multi-billionaires as an ownership group.
Okay, that's a good point. So why don't they spend the money then?
Okay, but here's what I wanted to ask you, okay? Here's what I want to ask you, and I mean this. Nick Kroll came out, the Reds general manager, who I've stated on his show today and many other days, I think if given the chance, would be an outstanding general manager. I really do.
Okay.
I think he's paid his dues. He's come up from being a scout, development, drafting. He's got the whole package. He's humble. He's a grinder. He's all those things you want in that kind of a job.
Sounds like me.
But he does. But, your hands are tied by payroll. You can only do so much. He came out at the winter meetings the other day and basically made the pitch. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this if you were a player. And basically his pitch is, look, we have a little bit of money to spend, not a lot, but maybe you're a player a year ago who had a bad year, that had a good career before last year. Maybe you were a guy who had a good career doing one of these. You got hurt last year, and now you're looking for somewhere to play. We play in a hitter's ballpark. You can come here and play for us and get your career back on track. If you were one of those guys out there that's basically in that position or positions that I just laid out, and there are other positions, what do you think about that? I mean, there's something appealing about that, right? Because you're going to go somewhere and play, right?
Mm-hmm. That's a great point. Excuse me. I would as a hitter, because you made the point. It's a great hitter's ballpark. So you could put up some big-time numbers as a hitter. I don't think I would come here as a pitcher.
No, I agree. But I think his pitch is to offensive players.
On the offensive, I think it's a good idea because some player, well, it didn't work. Cody Bellinger, he went to the Cubs, right? Got $16 million.
Right.
But a player like Bellinger, right? That's down a couple years. He's been hurt and gets a chance to play. He gets big numbers. And then all of a sudden he gets a long-term deal. I think it's the way he's got to play at Kroll. I think that's a good idea. And it's a good idea for agents to see that and say, listen, I know you want this kind of money. It's not going to happen. You go and play for the Cincinnati Reds. You put up those numbers. I'll get you a multi-year deal. I think it's a great strategy. I do. I think it's a great plan because that's what other options do you have besides building up the minor leagues? You really don't. You're not going to go out and spend that big money on a free agent. I mean, it's crazy money, Tom.
Yeah.
These guys are getting so. What is Judge getting? Is he getting $40 million a year?
Yeah, $40 million a year for 9 years. And even guys, and I made reference earlier, look, the guy's had a really nice career. He's a good pitcher and has been for a long, long time. I think he's an underachiever outside of a year or two with the White Sox, and that's Jose Quintana. This guy last year, and the whole analytics crowd, Tracy, which you're a big part of, you're right in the thick of all those analytics. They scream and yell that wins by a starting pitcher don't matter. I think that's just ridiculous. But nonetheless, he won 6 games last year.
I know.
32 starts for a crappy Pirates team. He pitched great once he came to the Cardinals. He gets 2 years for almost $30 million.
You know, he was a guy, too, that was traded to the Cubs, I think, going back. And the Cubs gave up a ton of good ball players. Jimenez, that Cease was another player. I mean, he's dead average. I mean, he's a dead average. And can you imagine writing that check to that guy? You know, you could sit there. We could argue about Verlander and DeGrom and Judge and Turner and all those guys. But that's the guy that I have a problem with, getting that kind of money or wanting that kind of money. It's just ridiculous. I mean, Bob Castellini can't. You say he can, then. You're saying that ownership can afford something like that, or to dip into the free agent market?
I was only making the point that ownership group, if you added them up, they would be billionaires. That's all I was saying. In the state and the condition that they're in right now, there are just so many holes that need to be filled that it just doesn't make any sense to go out and try to spend money to get the guys you just mentioned, right? What's Wilson Contreras going to do here if you want to sign him?
Nothing.
I mean, the Cardinals are bringing him in because they expect to win tomorrow, right?
Yeah. You just look at the Reds, and you start being serious. They got so many holes to fill.
They do.
I don't know where you start. I mean, I talk about, the two young pitchers, right? Green and Lodolo. I'm looking at their numbers. It's not that impressive. I'm not saying they're not good because they got good arms. But their record, their ERA, not very good, was it? I mean, these are supposed to be your number one and number two guys going forward. I mean, it's certainly not, Sid Fernandez and Dwight Gooden and Ron Darling and, those kind of guys. I mean,
I will say this, and I got there the year after it happened. But Greg Maddox's first full year in the major leagues, he lost 18 games and had an ERA over 5.
Yeah.
Now, you got to get your feet on the ground. Those guys get a hall pass for me because they do have great arms. Hey, by the way, speaking of Sharon, she said, bathing suit pick, ? She says, okay, Tracy. She says, but I have to tell you, I haven't shaved in 2 years. It's so bad that my neighbors refer to me as Chewbacca.
Let me tell you something. What's her name? Sharon? Sharon. Save that DM. Save that. Give it to Polly or Casey. I know Polly, that relationship won't last. Send it to Polly. Polly, by the way, what'd you get for your birthday from your girlfriend?
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Wait.
No.
Walk through what you received and walk through your night, please, before we let Tracy go.
Yeah, it was a very eventful night for me. We went downtown. We went to Jeff Ruby's. Then we went out to 3 different bars. We were out till like 3 or 4 in the morning. It was a crazy night.
Oh, are you telling the truth?
No.
Okay.
I ate dinner at my house. I got some clothes and called it a night.
and she didn't get you a gift or anything. You need to dump this chick.
She did.
What did she get you?
What'd she get you?
Taylor Swift.
I needed. Look, I'm a simple man, Tracy. You know that. I'm not demanding. I had asked for a couple of pieces of clothing, and I got them. And I was a happy guy.
What are those things that you put a beer can in to keep them cold? What are they called?
A koozie?
Koozie.
Yeah,
Koozie. Okay, koozie. I thought maybe she got you a Taylor Swift koozie.
Oh, that'd have been good.
Funny, Tom. I like that. You need to dump this chick. You'll find another girl eventually. And Paulie, did you take her to my suggestion? Did you take her to the Brass House or no?
No, we got the whole weekend. I got friends coming in for the Crosstown Shootout this weekend. We have plenty of time for that.
Oh, please do.
How would she react, Paul, if you said to her, you walked in the door this afternoon.
Yeah.
She gets out of school. She's a school teacher. How would she react if you uttered the words Tracy just suggested and said, honey, my birthday night was a little bit of a disappointment. I appreciate the clothes. We hung out at home. I'm kind of thinking to liven things up a little bit, even though we're not in the 13th year of marriage or the 22nd year of marriage, we're only dating, that we should head down to the BA for a little while.
Yeah, I think it would go over very well. I think she would drop whatever she was doing and just go down there. She'd be like, all right, let's get in the car. Let's go down there. I think that's how it would go.
It would be a learning process because you can take her and show her the girls and say, if you ever look like this, I'll divorce you. Remember, that's a place that you actually have to pay to keep the girls' clothes on. It's the only strip bar like that. They actually have a girl that she's so old, instead of the pole, she uses a walker to dance around. Tom, do you remember that? Did you ever see that woman? She's like 74, something like that. I mean, good for 74. I'm telling you would like it as your dad.
Hey, did you ever get any video, by the way, of your mother-in-law's Porsche?
That was a real touchy subject. I promise I'll see her when I go, not to get my reparation check, but I'll see her when I take the train to her place in Santa Barbara. And I'm doing that on Wednesday. But I swear to God, guys, I looked at that car. I would never spend money like that. It was, Tom, she said with tax and license, it was $267.
I know. You said, Paul, you were getting ready to say.
Well, wait a second. Hold on. So you're flying tomorrow.
Yeah, you took the words right out of
to LA. Then you're coming back here. Then you're taking a train back to LA. You're making 3 trips to LA in the span of 10 days?
But I'm flying first class. It's a difference. And I really enjoyed the Caesar salad I had at my seat. And also, if you sit in first class, you get a foot rub, by the way. But you have to ask for it.
One final note from Sharon, since she's been such an active part of the program today, before we let you go, Tracy. She says that Paul's girlfriend bought him a pair of leather chaps and Crocs.
What'd she get?
Leather chaps, which you've had a pair of those. When you were out in Oregon in the minor leagues, you had to have a pair of leather chaps, right?
I've only seen leather chaps on one other person. I think that was Jim Bowden.
Oh, my God.
Isn't that his nickname, Old Leather Pants? No, that's all right. That's, I don't know. Wear them next time, will you, on the show? Paula?
Oh, my God.
All right.
This show is going straight in the tank.
Numbers are going up.
They actually are. That
you know
might
what?
be a learning lesson for all of us. What's that?
Can I do something? I feel like I know this woman, Sharon.
Yeah.
And I have the ability to guess weight. I could just get a feel for someone, and I used to do it on WLW all the time. Just right?
Yeah.
Sharon, 275.
No chance. I'm betting that Sharon is a knockout. And I think
she's
playing this game from all the rest of us. I think she's just having fun.
I'm just kidding. I'm sure Sharon's
safe travels to California again, my friend. And, be careful out there. Tell Gavin we said hello. Enjoy first class. We'll be thinking about you over the weekend while we're watching the shootout, Army, Navy, and the Bengalis.
Don't forget about our bet, buddy.
Believe me, I'm well aware.
Yeah. All right.
And Tracy,
have a good weekend,
Sonny
boys.
Dykes, leader of men.
Tracy, if you're wanting to find Sharon, her last name is Peters. So if you want to look her up and see what you can find.
I wasn't going to give her last name.
How do you spell that?
Don't worry about it.
Sharon Peters.
All right. A privilege.
Is that with an S at the end or just Peter?
Tracer, nice to see you.
See you, Tommy.
All right.
Have a good weekend, boys.
You do the same. All right, boys. I guess that's it.
All
right. Thank you.
Absolutely, Tom.
Have a great rest of your day. We'll see all of you tomorrow. Big day tomorrow. We're going to have Steve Wolf on to talk about the Crosstown Shootout. Hopefully. And Terry Nelson is now done. Can't wait for that. That's going to be fun. We'll have Steve Wolf, Terry Nelson, and we'll do our picks.
What time is Terry at Brandon?
10:30.
10:30.
10:30. So if Terry at 10:30, Wolf at 11,
Yep.
picks at 11:30, we'll be ready to go. Hope all of you have a great day. Thanks so much for joining us on Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers.
At United Dairy Farmers, we've perfected freshness in our family bakery, where we use only the finest ingredients, like thick, high-quality glazes on our signature donuts, before delivering them fresh from bakery to store every day. UDF, made for you.
If your AC or furnace is struggling, turn to the experts at Bartell's Heating and Cooling. Their certified technicians get the job done right the first time. And if you need a new unit, Bartell's will give you upfront pricing with no hidden fees. Plus, ask about Bartell's 0% interest financing for 60 months. Learn more at bartellsheatingandcooling.com. Bartell's Heating and Cooling, for a comfortable way of life. Eli's Sports Bar and Grill, proudly sponsoring high school football with 3 locations in Mason, Liberty Township, and Ross, Ohio. Our 10-foot screens guarantee a great view from every seat in the house. Eli's Sports Bar and Grill, the best place in Cincinnati for sports, food, and fun.
Where can you turn when you're in pain? Turn where more high school, college, and pro athletes turn. Where your neighbors and weekend warriors turn. Turn to Beacon Orthopedics and Sports Medicine and get superior care on your schedule. That's the Beacon difference.
Check out our fresh arrivals at Jake Swinney Used Cars. Over 250 used vehicles weekly. All makes, all models. From economy to luxury, Jake Swinney, the original used car superstore.
I did TJ Watt last night. I hope TJ Watt likes eating grass because I fed him like a mule when Lyle Collins was laying on his back. We like pancakes and I put syrup on that boy. I fed that man. Put syrup on him. That's what we doing. We're pancaking the league this year, baby. Let's go.
That's Zimude. I mean, does it get any better than that guy? Look at him. That's a real fan. It's a real man. I love that guy.
Also, when I lost in Anaheim, my dad was.
Hey, welcome in, everybody. Today is Thursday, December 8th, 2022. Not Too Picky is here with you, and Reed Mouse is back with us. Reed, I haven't seen you in like 2 weeks.
I was hiding from you.
Yeah, I haven't seen you in like 2 weeks. Casey, can we get a little bump here on Reed Mouse so we can welcome Reed into the program? There we go. Hey, Reed, how are you doing?
Good. One thing I was doing when I was sitting on the beach was articulating what it'd be like to see you again, Paul. It's been a while, and all I could think about, sunshine, no clouds in the sky, hearing the seagulls chirp and whatever, and all I could think about was you, Paul.
Oh, that's so nice. I appreciate that, Reed. Well,
I brought you back a birthday present. I'll give it to you after the show.
Oh, thanks. Looking forward to it. I like the hat. What is that? Is that a Winnipeg Jets hat?
That is a Newman Jets hat. My older brother, Drew, is the head baseball coach at Newman University in Wichita, Kansas.
There it is. Okay. So we have a couple of things to do today. We have Mike coming on here in just a minute, and then Casey, I'm going to need to have you fire up a parlay here for tonight. We'll talk about the Crosstown Shootout to pick that game. And we're also going to get a recap because we didn't have a show on Monday. We're going to recap Casey's night at the casino last week. Casey, we spent about 40 minutes on the show last week.
I tuned in periodically.
Educating Casey on what to do last week at Hollywood Casino, and it sounded like he had a pretty good night. We don't need to. We don't need
paid off.
Yeah, he won. We don't need to make you go on the record about what you won, but he won. Okay, Casey, just let me know whenever Mike gets in here. Okay.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Okay. Reed.
Yeah.
Not a lot in college basketball tonight.
Not a whole lot.
There's only about 10 games tonight, I think, and if you know about college basketball, you know that the lines don't come out for the games ahead of time more than maybe 18 hours or so. So what we can do right now before Mike gets in here is look ahead to the Bengals game this weekend.
Yeah.
Bengals are 6-point favorites this weekend at home against the Browns. Do we like the Bengals or not this weekend? 6 is a big number against
So
this
what's
Browns
the old
team.
rule of thumb? I don't think it always applies for football games, but the home team gets 3. That's
Yep.
the rule of thumb. I don't think it always applies, but that's the rule of thumb. So this is a similar line to what we saw when they played on Monday Night Football up in Cleveland. That was a 3.5-point spread. And a lot has changed since then, right?
Yep.
The Bengals are playing significantly better, and the Browns made an upgrade on paper, made an upgrade at the quarterback position into Deshaun Watson. I know he didn't play well last week. They won 27. They didn't score a single point on offense, but they still won 27, whatever it was. So if you're asking me what I'm going to do on this game,
I am asking you.
I'm going to take the Browns. Plus 6.5 right there.
Traitor.
Listen, until the Bengals beat the Browns, what's Ric Flair's old saying? To be the man, you got to beat the man. And the Browns, as we know in the NFL, they're the men. And the Bengals are just unable to beat them. So I'm going to take the Browns.
If you haven't been following this show or Tom's show at all for the last couple of months, then you wouldn't know about Casey McAllister. But if you have been following the show and you know Casey McAllister's take, you know that the Browns are not at the top of Casey's favorite list.
They don't smell good.
No, they don't. Casey, what are you going to do this weekend?
I'm taking Bengals all the way.
You're taking the Bengals -6.
Okay, Case, are you going to go to the game?
Yeah, are you going to
We
the game?
need you in the stands.
I'm not going to the game.
Have you been to a game this
Do
year?
you even like the Bengals?
I do. I've been to 2 games this year.
Oh, what was the other one? I know you went to Thursday Night Football because that was the game that I stood outside and tried to get into and scalp tickets, and I never got in. What was the other one?
I went to Miami and – oh, actually, I only went to one.
Okay.
I only went to one. I thought I went to 2.
So you lied to us. You
to,
looked us square in the eye and you lied to us.
I went to 3 last year.
And they made the Super Bowl.
Actually, I went to all of them last year if you count me working. But I went to 3 as a fan.
So you were in the stadium for every game last year, and you've only been in the stadium once this year.
I know. It's sad.
So the Bengals make the Super Bowl, and your love for them decreases. How does that make sense?
It doesn't make sense at all. It doesn't make sense at all. But hopefully one day I'll get back there.
Monday Night Football, we're all going.
Oh, dude.
Are we? Yeah, we have to.
We're all going.
We have to.
I looked at tickets for that.
Well, sports betting is going to be legal, so you can just bet.
On
the
that
night
Sunday?
before.
On that Sunday?
It's on Monday. It's Monday Night Football.
No, I know, but I'm saying we're going to have to win a lot on Sunday.
Yeah, to pay for the tickets.
Oh, my God. Did you see that? Did you see how much they got? Because I
What are
looked
they
at
going for?
So one of my best friends is a massive Bills fan. I'm talking like he has season tickets to Bills and drives back to Buffalo.
Sure,
He lives in
sure.
Cincinnati, drives back to Buffalo to go to the games. They're to sit in the top corner, I think in 317, to sit in the top corner in one of the top rows. After fees, it was like $220-some.
Jump change for us. Jump change. I mean, we win that back the first day betting is legalized.
And then
in
we
the state
just
of
go.
Ohio. Then we go.
So we roll over our gambling winnings right into
Fun money.
I also have something I don't want to forget. Remind me to talk about the profit exchange. We'll talk about that after we go through Mike, because that's a longer conversation. No Mike yet.
No mic yet.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so we talked about the Bengals and the. And,
What are you taking,
and the
Mike?
Yes, I know. I was just about to.
Actually, the line got bet down to 5.5. So
Ooh, it's coming back down. I kind of like the Bengals here.
take them.
I think I am.
Take 'em.
I hate that I like the Bengals here because I don't think that's the right pick, but I think I might take the Bengals here. You know what? I will take the Bengals here. I don't want to be wishy-washy.
You
on
just
it.
want to bet each other?
I'm going to well,
No
we'll
juice
get
then.
we'll get to
No
the profit
juice.
exchange later. I see Mike with an orange cord here, which means he's rooting for the Bengals this week. I know that already.
Yeah, the other team they're playing is not orange.
No, not orange at all. They're brown. Mike Schmaltz. Been a little bit. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, guys. How are you?
You sound fantastic. This is the best you've sounded in a while.
It's best
Well,
you've
we've
looked.
gone back to the suspect microphone. So let's see if it works this time. I'm not going to move much. Just going to sit here and hope this holds up.
It looks good. You sound good.
Beautiful. Appreciate that.
How you doing?
Hey, we're doing great. How are you? We got crosstown shootout this week. We got Bengals Browns. I mean, what else? I mean, there's a lot of energy in the sports universe.
Yeah. Fire me up, Mike. Let's go.
Mike, I got a question.
Yes.
Are you taking the under in the Armed Forces game? The Navy Army game?
I'm sticking with, so last week I did one of my universal big-time future picks because I didn't look at the dates right. Navy was favored, I believe. I'm sticking with Navy. Navy's been great to us all year, so I got to take Navy.
Yeah, Navy's -2.5. Yeah, you weren't here last week. Mike had the classic save your money for next week pick.
He does that. He
sprinkles that in every once in a while when he gets so confident. He's 1-0 in those.
He feels good when he looks. When you're looking at the board in advance, that means you're seeing it clearly. You're seeing it so clearly, you're looking past the week, and you got a winner, and you say it.
Yep. All right, Mike, what do you got for us today?
There's a little too much to that, but I'll take it. I'll be the oracle, okay? All right, you ready for a little football? Let's play some football. Then we get the Raiders throwback game, right? Raiders
tonight?
Chargers. Goes back to like Oakland, San Diego. This is going to be a blast. I am taking tonight, so Josh Jacobs is hurt, right? He's got a little hamstring. He's still going to play. I think he's under his total for rushing yardage, which is 87.5, so that's -105. Let's go with that, right? The Rams are third against the rush, too, so that's pretty good. I realize Aaron Donald's not playing. Devontae Adams, I think, has a big day, so he's +89.5 on his receiving total. That's -125. I'd take that, and I'd take the anytime touchdown at -165.
Okay.
The Raiders are not good against the pass, but I don't know who's going to be the quarterback. Does Baker Mayfield get in there, start slinging it all over the place, miss people, throw a bunch of interceptions? I don't know. So it's kind of hard to pick a Ram right now.
Are they offering any lines on Baker Mayfield?
They're not offering any passing props from the Chargers.
Not now.
Or from the Rams. From the Rams.
For the Rams, right.
Okay.
So
now we see you.
I like all that. Is that better?
Yeah, it's better.
I'm trying not to move and disrupt the audio.
No, you're good. You're good right there. Don't do anything except give winners.
All right. I got a little value here, and this is kind of an extended Southwest Ohio thing. Marshall tonight in NCAA basketball is +2, -110 at Duquesne. Marshall is averaging 84 points a game. They've got 3 double-figure scorers. They only give up 67 a game. And Duquesne, while they've won 6 straight, they only average 79 points. They give up 71. I think the Thundering Herd, who absolutely torched me the first time I picked against them with Miami, pays me back tonight, and they're +2 at -110. So let's take that.
God, I love this show.
Let's dip our toes, our fingers into the NCAA basketball tonight.
Schmaltzy, on a scale of 1 to 10, how good would you say your geography skills are?
Not very good.
I was gonna say
as you're aware.
Duquesne, Marshall, Southwest Ohio. I'm not seeing the connection there.
Southeast Ohio extended.
Okay, okay.
I'll say this. Now there is a player
East Ohio, not West Virginia.
Duquesne's leading scorer is Day Watson, and he transferred from Miami. So let's just give me that, will you?
Yeah, that counts. That checks the box.
Close enough.
That checks the box.
Is that good enough?
That's good.
There's a connection.
As long as it's a winner, that's all I care about.
There's a connection.
Okay.
All right. Bengals, you were just talking about it. I like the +5.5. Right? Let's take that. Or -5.5. I think they win this. And the only reason I think this is there's intangibles sometimes involved in sports betting. I am going to the Bengals game for the first time in probably about 10 years.
You're worth
I'm going
3.
to be
You're
there.
in the building.
I'm in the house for the first time in a long time. So therefore, I'm going to be rewarded for that. Okay?
Okay.
I think both quarterbacks, though, go under on their passing totals. Cleveland's still pretty good against the pass. Deshaun Watson, we don't really know what we're getting yet. Bengals pretty good defensively. They've been great lately. So take the under on both of the passing totals on the yard.
Okay.
But take the Bengals to win.
Okay.
It's over. The streak ends against the Browns because I show up. That's it.
As wild as it sounds, I might believe that.
I went to their last win against the Browns on Andy Dalton's senior day back 3 years ago. So as long as we have someone in the show in the building, we're good.
You've got to come too. Are you going? You got to be there.
I cannot go.
You can go. You just maybe don't want to, or you can't make it work. What's the problem?
Do you have a seat open next to you? I'll only go if I can sit
Absolutely.
right next to you.
We'll find something.
Right.
We'll find something.
We might have to.
Do they know who you are? Just wear the chatterbox sweats.
The
and
millions
right
and
in.
millions that watch this show. Come on.
Absolutely.
They know who we are.
Do you know who I am? That's all you got to say. And you're right in.
Mike, what we were going to do this later. What do you got on the crosstown shootout since we're all here together?
Xavier by 20.
All right. Yeah, so this line's
going to Is there a line yet?
There's no line from Vegas. It's probably going to be somewhere in the 4 to 5 range for Xavier.
Yeah, I think Xavier covers that. I'm just not sure. Xavier's balance is pretty good. Obviously, you've seen the schedule. You've been out there to watch all that stuff with the PK tournament.
Yeah.
I think Xavier's got a lot of balance. I think they just had that nice victory the other night, so there's a little confidence there, and they're ready to shred some Bearcats.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Xavier has the better team in this game. I think they have the better coach in this game. But what they don't have is the environment in this game. I've said it once. I've said it a million times. UC has not hosted a full shootout since 2018, and not a single player, not a single coach for Xavier. None of the assistants. Nobody on the sidelines was involved in that game. There were some administrators there, that obviously, but I'm talking players, coaches.
Yeah.
Nobody was there. So if you're Xavier, you got to go into this environment in their first true road game of the year. You think back to last year, Xavier was only a 5 or 6 point favorite, and they had a much better team than UC last year as well. So we'll see how it goes. But UC is a top 75 team, and they can shoot the ball pretty well when they get hot. And that's what they got to do.
Yeah.
They score a lot of points, and that's been Xavier's Achilles heel this year, is defending the perimeter. Landers Nolly makes 9 threes in a game again. It's going to be a long afternoon for Xavier.
Yeah, it's one of the games, and you hear this all the time, that somebody shows up that you don't expect, or somebody has a really big game because it's the rivalry game, and Landers Nolly could be that guy. You know, he's the most experienced guy and the leader on that team, so maybe he's the guy that goes off this time.
Yep. Okay.
Could be interesting. But I think Xavier wins it. So worst case money line, and what'd you say it was about 5, 4, 5?
I'm gonna guess it hasn't opened yet, but Ken Pom has it at 2, and they don't factor in injuries. I'm gonna guess it probably ends up at like 4.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Xavier could cover that. I think that's possible. But this again could be a Reed Mouse special. You know, we're too close to the fire because we're over there all the time.
Okay.
But confidence is high in my camp.
All right. Mike,
Okay.
what do you have anything else, or have we exhausted your picks?
That's all I have for right now, Paul. I mean, I can come up with some more and call you back.
That's all I have. As he's rattled
I
off
was trying
10
to
picks.
narrow the scope. Since I've been a little bit hit and miss here, I'm trying to narrow the scope and give you the meat, the white meat, if you call it that, on the turkey.
Yeah, it was great. It was great.
The good stuff. Right there, the moist stuff right in the middle.
Mike, we're 22 days from being able to actually put these in the state of Ohio.
Yes. Money where our mouth time is coming.
So
well, Mike, the goal, if you weren't listening to the show earlier, the goal is, gambling opens in Ohio on January 1st. The Bengals play on Monday Night Football January 2nd. The goal for everyone on the show, Casey, me, Paul, you, is that we win so much money on the 1st that we all just, sit in 50-yard line front row for Monday Night Football on the 2nd. Because after you win this Sunday, after the Bengals win with you in the stadium, you're going to have to go to every home game going forward.
Absolutely. And I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to make that sacrifice in that time. And I'm also, I've got a resignation letter here written for my employer. It's dated the 2nd of January because I'm going to have a big day on the 1st. And I think it's going to be over. I'm going to just be able to call my shot from there on out.
You don't even
It's
need
dated. It's in an envelope. It's ready to be submitted.
I do appreciate that you were at your employer right now saying this out loud.
Yeah, I'm in an enclosed area. I don't think anybody can hear me.
Okay.
Maybe the recording devices are on at the ceiling. I'm not sure.
The wiretaps. Okay. All right, Mike. Well, I appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Hooday.
Let's have a weekend.
Let's have ourselves a weekend.
Hooday, baby.
Let's go.
Thanks, Mike.
Marshall. Start tonight with Marshall.
Heck yes. Go Herd.
Thundering Herd.
Go Herd.
Let's go Herd.
Okay. Thanks as always to Mike. Reed, we have a couple of things to do here before we end the show. First thing that I want to get your thought on. We talked about this yesterday in the office. It's this thing called profit exchange.
Okay.
It's good. Ohio's going to
explain it to me like I'm
about to. So for those of you who don't know anything about sports betting and maybe are just starting to get into it when it comes to Ohio, when you bet on your phone or on your apps, if you win consistently over a long period of time at a high rate, you get limited, which means that the books will say it's not illegal to win. It's just like counting cards and blackjack. It's not illegal, but these businesses are businesses. These sports books are businesses. And if you're winning too much of their money, it's become a problem that they're starting to limit a lot of players. Now, not every book does this, and some books are more lenient than others. And for the average bettor out there, you're never going to have to worry about this. But for people that are really good at it, that's why a lot of times you'll see them go into casinos. They'll place cash bets. They'll do it more in person for their bigger wagers, whatever. Well, I was reading an article 2 days ago about profit exchange, which I've heard about. It's over in England. It's over in Europe. But it's only legal in one U.S. state. Bet Openly is similar to this, if you know of Bet Openly. But profit exchange is going to be, I've said 1,000,000 times on this show, that Ohio is going to be the best place to gamble on sports in the whole country. Profit exchange will come to Ohio. It'll be one of only 2 states in the country, I think I had that right, that this will launch. It won't launch immediately on January 1st. They said sometime in the first half of 2023. I guess they want to kind of get their legs under them. But what profit exchange is let's say I want to bet $500 on the Bengals -6. You want to bet $500 on the Browns +6. I go in and I submit that I want to take the Bengals at -5. I have to wait until somebody else takes the back half of my wager, which would be you. They pair us up, kind of like stock options, selling a call, whatever. They pair us up, and all profit exchange does is take 2% off the top. So it's -102 instead of -110. And you might say, well, what's that difference? That 8% difference over the long haul adds up to a huge difference. That is massive. The risky run is that if you go up and you're betting a ton of money, if you're betting thousands of dollars, you might not find somebody on the other half of that bet. But the fact that you could potentially get $50, $100, $150 on a bet where you get it at -102 and you just wait and hope that somebody's on the other side of it, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, you save the juice, right?
You do. Every bet.
The juice, you keep it in the bottle.
So effectively, you get every bet at -101, whether you're paying for it or whether you're winning it, whether you're paying on a loss or whether you're winning. Effectively, every bet is -101.
So you're telling me, Reed Mouse.
Yes, I am.
To always check the profit exchanges if you're going to bet, a straight up spread. Just check to see if they have whatever you want to bet available for the price that you want to bet.
If you're just betting spreads,
because you'll save on the juice.
Give it a look. And you're super confident in something. Now, I know we're not sponsored by any gambling companies on here. But I don't know if there are any gambling companies we're going to sign on with. But I will say there are some gambling companies that have much better reward systems than others. So all the credit to you if you want to go in and use an app that gives you some Vegas rewards or whatever that might be. I know that's something I'm going to look at, because if you're gambling, you might as well get rewarded for it, even if your picks aren't winning. But a profit exchange doesn't take parlays, at least because there's no way to bet the other side of a parlay in a way that makes sense.
I'll put up $100 on your 4-leg parlay that plays 10-1.
Yeah.
If you give me 10.
Yeah. It really only makes sense for spreads. Player props, parlays, all that, forget about it. Money lines and spreads and totals, just the 3 basic ones. They'll take that. I think it's a good idea to at least check it out. It might not be something that you're using for every bet because, like I said, every bet might not be available, or you might not get the money amount you want. I don't really know. I've never used it, so I don't know how the user interface works on it. I don't know how easy it is to use, but it's at least something to look at.
Well, it's huge if you're betting big, right? I mean, when you're betting $10 on a spread, what's $11 to win 10 at -110. But if you're betting $500, all of a sudden you're betting $550 to win 500.
Yeah.
So, the bigger you bet, the more you're saving.
Yeah. Now, the problem along with that is
you got to find somebody to.
If you're betting a lot more money, a lot of times those are sharper people who might be on the same side as you, and you're not going to find as many options to get in on it. All right, so that's Profit Exchange. It's at least something to keep an eye out for, but they said it's not going to launch on January 1st. Before we get out of here for today's show, Casey.
Yep.
You went to Hollywood Casino last week.
I did.
You won.
I did.
How did it go? We talked a lot about what this night was going to look like for you and how you're going to be able to handle yourself, and it sounds like you handled yourself pretty well.
I did. It was a lot of fun. We mostly spent it on blackjack, and I tripled my money. Not going to say how much, but I did triple my money. Yep,
okay.
Tripled. And it was just a lot of fun. You know, I just it was a little bit of a learning process, a little bit of a learning curve, but I just got on a hot streak, and I was just doubling my money.
Splitting?
Just splitting. Yeah, splitting. I got lucky a few times, but yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So non-gambling wise, I did not watch the show when you guys were talking about going to the casino, but you did send a text in the group chat of Boogie Nights, and you said, "I'm sorry, Paul." What does that mean?
Well,
did Paul tell you not to go to Boogie Nights?
No, Paul just really wanted to go to Boogie Nights.
So when
you like to boogie?
When my girlfriend and I started talking 5 years ago, I think the night that she and I first kind of really started talking.
Was that boogie?
She was going to boogie with her friends, and she was like, "Oh, this is so fun! You got to come with me sometime." 5 years later, I've never been.
You still have never been?
Never been.
So I've got a really good story about about Boogie Nights.
Okay.
So I went there during Final Four last year.
Okay.
And I'd been drinking, probably overserved. But me and my friend are out on the dance floor, and they play the song from Dirty Dancing, like, "I've had the time of my life, and I've never felt this way before." That was really good, guys. But, you know, in the movie, she runs, baby, who you're not supposed to put in the corner, baby runs and gets lifted up. Who's that actor's name? What's that actor's name again?
Susan Sarandon?
No, not the actor. But,
oh, I don't know.
Yeah, she gets lifted up in the air. So they play this song, and me and my friend have been overserved. And I look at him. He looks at me. We don't give each other a nod. We don't verbalize what we're going to do. But I run full speed at the break of that song. Patrick Swayze is who I was looking for. But I run full speed at him, and I jump like the girl in Dirty Dancing, and he hoists me up in the air, and he puts me down immediately. I'm a bigger guy, so it's hard to shoulder press me. And we sit down, and immediately a bouncer comes on up and just taps on our shoulder and goes, "Hey, no Dirty Dancing." And that was the best moment. That could have been the greatest reaction that I've ever had, is during the Dirty Dancing song, we do the Dirty Dancing move. He comes up and says, "Hey, no Dirty Dancing." So,
but he didn't kick you out.
Did not kick us out.
Okay, that's good. Jennifer Grey was who we were looking for. I said Susan Sarandon.
I was actually asking for the actor, not the actress. But Patrick
Swayze.
Oh,
Patrick Swayze was who you were looking for.
I was looking for.
Okay.
But Boogie Nights, did you have fun boogieing?
I did. It was a lot of fun. It was just me and as the only guy. There was probably 10 other girls in our group. It was just a bunch of Alex's aunts, her sister. It was her sister's birthday that we were celebrating Boogie Nights at. And I was just the DD. I was just going to go and have fun at the casino, you know, spend some time. But I actually did go to Boogie Nights, had fun. Designated dancer, yeah. It was a lot of fun. I would love to take you sometime, Paul.
I know. I would love to go.
What are you guys doing after the show? No Boogie Nights tonight.
No Boogie Nights tonight. No.
I'm glad you won, Casey.
Thank you.
The chat, not a big Hollywood Casino fan. That's a fact.
I just made money there, so I can't badmouth it.
All we do is make money at Hollywood Casino.
All we do.
You can say whatever you want about Hollywood Casino aesthetically, but man, you win when you go to Hollywood.
Nothing more to say.
The
sportsbook's cool.
The sportsbook is cool. Yeah. I'm excited to see what the Hard Rock Sportsbook is like downtown. I saw that they were putting it up. I saw a shell of it, but I haven't seen it.
Ooh.
So I don't know if you see the comment section at all.
Go and don't take your girlfriend, Paul.
Oh, now that would be tough. I think if I did that, I'd have some issues. Nate Hines says, I had to keep reminding him you want the dealer to bust, not yourself, as you tried to hit when the dealer was showing 4, 5, or 6. Casey, that was the golden rule that I told you. I said 3 things to remember. Cards are moving fast. I don't expect you to remember.
Well, I always would hit when I had 17 or 17 below. I'm sorry.
16 and below.
16 below.
There we go.
So I would just see that and then I would be trying to hit immediately.
Got it.
Didn't really read what the dealer had. I wasn't doing the full process.
He was focused on himself. He was focused on himself, not the opponent, which is bad. Isn't right.
Hey, at least we were hitting on 16. I told you, don't be scared. It probably paid off.
It did.
Good.
It did.
Casey, when they were giving advice, I did throw some suggestions while I was riding in the car when you guys were talking about this last week. But the one thing that if you ever go back to the casino, and this is honest advice, I think you should do this. You'll be well regarded at the casino. When you sit down, ask the table what the count is every time.
True.
The dealer,
That's great advice.
The dealer and the pit boss will love that. They'll be so happy. Just sit on down and just be like, so what's the count?
You give your cash over and you give your player's card over, and they like look at your card and they say, "Hey, Casey, welcome to the table." And you say, "Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm just curious, what's the count?" Just ask them that.
Yeah, it'll go over very well.
Sure.
All right, good.
Yep.
Glad we established that.
Yep.
Reed, do you have anything else before we get out of here?
It's nothing.
Oh, I got my parlay.
Oh, shoot, man! I was about to cut that off. Go ahead, Casey.
All right, so listen.
Before you do this, you have been so close on almost every parlay. Maybe that was what you were about to say.
And that's what counts. You got to be close, right?
You got to be close.
And I made the point to you walking into work that if you were betting these straight, you'd have a pretty damn good record.
Yeah, well, some of them are like minus 450.
Some
so,
of
I mean,
they're juiced. All right, go ahead.
All right. So we're going to start off with the best parts first. And then as we get further down, that's where you guys can start going like, all right, let's throw that one out. Let's
How many
You got a
legs is
parlay.
this
I
guy?
got 7 picks here.
That's a 7-legger.
A 7-leg.
Put an extra one on there. We'll call it the spider parlay.
Lord.
Oh, yeah, the 8-legger.
Lord.
The arachnid.
All right.
Devontae Adams, over 84.5 yards.
All right.
Derek Carr, over 224 yards. Josh Jacobs, under 104.5 yards. The Rams, under 21.5 points. Josh Jacobs, +2 per receptions. Over two
receptions. 2 or more, right?
2 or more.
Okay.
Foster Moreau, their tight end, 2 or more receptions. And Josh Jacobs, over 14.5 receiving yards. That is a +750 leg parlay.
So you think that the Raiders are just gonna shred the Rams? See, I like David Carr getting over his passing, and then Devontae Adams. Like if Devontae Adams is gonna get 85 passing yards, then you got to think David Carr is gonna get 225. But only so many people can catch the ball, Casey. You've got like 4 overs on receiving props.
Well, they're only 2. So here's the thing. Josh Jacobs consistently gets at least a catch or a target every game. And because I have him going under in his rushing total, I think he'll be more involved in the receiving game. So really it's not like to me, it's not a huge boom or bust because let me just pull this up real quick. Josh Jacobs, and unfortunately last night or the last Sunday does not help back this theory up at all. But if you look at the rest of his games since he's been getting the full starting opportunities, 5 targets, 6 targets, 5 targets, 4, 3, 8, 4, 7. Okay. So then he's catching it mostly out of the backfield, and most of those games he's getting like 30 yards, 20 yards, 10 yards. But as of late, against Denver with a really good defense, he had 4 targets, 3 receptions, 51 yards. Against Seattle, he had 74 receiving yards, 6 receptions. I think he's getting more involved.
Do you understand why the concern is with the receiving props? You have 4 different overs with 3 different guys on receiving. There's only so many people that can catch the ball.
So I have Devontae Adams at 84.5. Yeah. I think that is a pretty good number.
Okay.
The one that I would get rid of is probably the Josh Jacobs or Foster Moreau receptions. plus 2 receptions to me is doable for both, but like if we're trying to be more safe, let's get rid of those over the others because I think Devontae Adams at 84.5 is a.
Hey, I gotta bet it. So I always bet your props and your parlays. So
all right,
I'm on board.
Michigan -4.5 at Minnesota. Have a great day, everybody.